Hey everyone, welcome back to Potter Paradox. Today we're diving into an amazing story called What If the Goblin Nation blood-tested Harry at age 7 and discovered 8 stolen vaults. Dumbledore was draining monthly. Dumbledore exposed. If you love these stories, please hit that like button and subscribe. It really helps us bring more content to you. Without further ado, let's begin. Chapter 1, Blood tells Mrs. Arabella Fig wasn't stupid. Living in Little Whinging as Dumbledore's squib spy had taught her to keep her head down and her eyes open. But what she just witnessed made her stomach turn. 7-year-old Harry Potter, bleeding from a gash on his forehead, had been locked outside the Dursley home in the pouring November rain. She'd watched through her window as the small boy huddled against the garden shed, his oversized clothes plastered to his thin frame. 3 hours. 3 hours before Petunia finally unlocked the door with a sneer. Arabella's hands shook as she placed her cup of tea down. This wasn't just neglect anymore. This was something far worse. Dumbledore be damned, she muttered, reaching for her special address book. The one with contacts Dumbledore didn't know about. Her finger stopped on a name, Andromeda Tonks. Former Black Healer. And someone who wouldn't immediately run to Albus. Harry huddled under his threadbare blanket in the cupboard, trying to stop shivering. His wet clothes had soaked the thin mattress, but he didn't dare ask for dry ones. Not after Uncle Vernon's reaction to him tracking mud into the house. Worthless burden, Vernon had growled, shoving Harry into the cupboard. No dinner for a week. Harry's stomach rumbled painfully. When had he last eaten properly? Yesterday's half-slice of toast seemed like ages ago. He carefully touched the cut on his forehead where he'd hit the garden wall when Dudley had shoved him. It still stung, but at least it had stopped bleeding. A soft tapping at the cupboard door made him freeze. "Boy," came Aunt Petunia's sharp whisper. "Get up. There's someone at the door asking questions. If you say one word about being punished, I'll make sure you regret it." Harry scrambled up as the lock clicked open. Aunt Petunia yanked him out by his arm, her nails digging into his skin. "Clean yourself up," she hissed, shoving him toward the downstairs bathroom. "And remember, you fell playing. That's all." Harry splashed cold water on his face, wincing as it hit his cut. Through the bathroom window, he could see a sleek black car parked outside, nothing like the company cars Uncle Vernon's colleagues drove. When he came out, 2 strangers stood in the hallway. A tall woman with kind eyes but a stern expression, and a shorter man in what looked like an expensive suit. Both regarded him with barely concealed shock. "Mr. Potter," the woman said gently, crouching to his level. "My name is Andromeda Tonks. I'm a nurse. Would you mind if I take a look at that cut on your head?" Before Harry could answer, Uncle Vernon's voice boomed from the living room. "Now see here. The boy is clumsy, always falling. We've done our best with him, but he's troubled. Lies constantly." The man in the suit, who Harry now noticed had unusually pointed ears and sharp teeth, fixed Vernon with a stare that made the large man step back. "Mr. Dursley," he said in a voice like steel on stone, "perhaps we could continue this discussion while Healer Tonks examines the boy." Vernon spluttered but followed the strange man into the kitchen. Harry heard the word, compensation, float back, followed by sudden silence. Mrs. Tonks gently examined Harry's forehead, her expression darkening as she took in his soaked clothes and thin frame. "Harry," she whispered, casting a quick glance toward the kitchen, "would you like to go somewhere safe? Just for a little while?" Harry hesitated. Every instinct screamed trap. Adults never helped, not teachers, not neighbors. Nobody. "Will I have to come back here?" he asked finally. Something flashed in her eyes. "No, Harry. Not if I have anything to say about it." She stood and held out her hand. Harry stared at it for a long moment, then reached up and took it. 5 minutes later, Harry sat in the back of the black car, wrapped in a warm blanket that Mrs. Tonks had pulled from her bag. Uncle Vernon had barely protested, especially after the strange man, who introduced himself only as Ripjaw, had presented some kind of document that made Vernon's face go purple then white. "Where are we going?" Harry asked as suburban houses gave way to London traffic. "To see some people who can help you," Andromeda replied. "People who knew your parents." Harry's heart skipped. "My parents?" "But Aunt Petunia said they were drunks who died in a car crash." Ripjaw made a sound like grinding metal. Andromeda's knuckles turned white on the steering wheel. "Harry," she said carefully, "I'm afraid your aunt and uncle have told you many untruths. Your parents were extraordinary people. And they didn't die in a car crash." By the time the car pulled up outside what appeared to be an abandoned storefront, Harry's head was spinning with talk of magic, wizards, and a dark lord named Voldemort. It sounded like madness, except Ripjaw had made a coin dance across his knuckles without touching it, and Mrs. Tonks had healed his forehead with a wave of a wooden stick. "Welcome to the London entrance of Gringotts Bank," Ripjaw announced, leading them through a door that materialized as they approached. "The only wizard bank in Britain, run by the Goblin nation for over 7 centuries. Harry gaped as they entered an ornate marble lobby filled with strange, stern-faced creatures working at high counters. "You're all goblins?" he asked Ripjaw. "Indeed, Mr. Potter. The finest financial minds in the magical world, if I do say so myself." They bypassed the main hall, heading down a private corridor where elaborate doors bore golden plaques with names Harry couldn't pronounce. Finally, they stopped before a door reading, "Sharpclaw, Senior Account Manager." Inside, an older goblin with silver-streaked black hair and half-moon spectacles looked up from a mountain of paperwork. His eyes widened at the sight of Harry. "So it's true," he said, rising immediately. "Ripjaw, secure the room." Ripjaw pressed his hand to the door, which glowed blue briefly. "Done, Senior Manager." Sharpclaw came around the desk, examining Harry with penetrating eyes. "Mr. Potter, I am Sharpclaw, manager of the Potter accounts for the past 70 years. We've been trying to reach you for some time." "Reach me?" Harry asked. "Why?" "Numerous financial irregularities," Sharpclaw replied, his frown deepening. "And your failure to respond to our letters." "I never got any letters," Harry said. Andromeda placed a hand on his shoulder. "This is worse than we thought, Sharpclaw. The boy knows nothing of our world. He's been mistreated by those muggles, and I suspect there may be blocks on his magic." Sharpclaw's expression darkened. "We need to perform a full inheritance test. Immediately." He turned to Harry. "Young heir, this will require 7 drops of your blood on a special parchment. It will tell us your magical inheritance and identify any spells that may have been cast on you." Harry swallowed hard. "Will it hurt?" "Just a pinprick," Andromeda assured him. Minutes later, Harry watched in fascination as Sharpclaw collected 7 drops of his blood into a golden bowl filled with silvery liquid. The goblin poured the mixture onto an ancient-looking piece of parchment. Words began to form in crimson ink: "Inheritance test, Harry James Potter, age, 7 years, 3 months, 17 days, blood status, half-blood magical guardian, Albus Percival Wulfric Brian Dumbledore, self-appointed, legal guardian, Petunia Desley née Evans, muggle, magical core status, 78% bound, performed by APWB Dumbledore, November 1, 1981, health status, chronic malnutrition, multiple improperly healed bone fractures, magical suppression sickness active charms, tracking charm, APWB Dumbledore. Male redirection ward, APWB Dumbledore, passive loyalty charm, APWB Dumbledore, magic suppression field, APWB Dumbledore, blood-based containment ward, location, 4, Privet Drive, magical inheritance, Potter family, paternal line, ancient and noble house Peveril family, paternal line, most ancient and noble house Gryffindor family, paternal line, founder house Black family, blood adopted heir, ancient and noble house Evans family, maternal line, dormant magical line Slytherin family, right of conquest, founder house Gaunt family, right of conquest, ancient house Ravenclaw family, maternal, Line, Founder House Active Vaults, Potter Family Vault 687, Trust, Potter Family Vault 347, Maine, Black Family Air Vault 711 Peveril Family Vault 12 Gryffindor Family Vault 7 Slytherin Family Vault 8 Ravenclaw Family Vault 5 Gaunt Family Vault 534 Evans Family Vault 998 Unauthorized Withdrawals, past 6 years Potter Trust, 5,000 galleons/month to Albus Dumbledore, Personal, Potter Maine, 10,000 galleons/month to Order of the Phoenix, Defunct Organization, Potter Maine, 2,000 galleons/month. To Vernon and Petunia Desley Black Air, 7,000 galleons/month to Hogwarts Special Projects Fund, Peveril, Multiple Artifact Removals, see Appendix A, Gryffindor, 15,000 galleons/month to Hogwarts Board of Governors Slytherin, 12,000 galleons/month to Ministry, War Reparations Fund, total unauthorized withdrawals, 3,144,000 galleons, is almost equal to £15,720,000. Silence fell as the words continued to spread across the parchment. Sharpclaw's hands trembled slightly as he read. 8 inheritance lines, he whispered. Unprecedented. Andromeda looked pale. And all those withdrawals. Merlin, that's over £15 million. Theft, Ripjaw snarled. From a child. From our bank. Harry stared at the parchment, struggling to comprehend. Is that all mine? Yes, Mr. Potter, Sharpclaw said grimly. You may well be the wealthiest wizard in Britain. And someone has been stealing from you since the night your parents died. Dumbledore, Andromeda whispered. I never would have believed it. Harry's head spun. Magic was real. He was rich. And someone named Dumbledore had been stealing from him for years. What happens now? He asked quietly. Sharpclaw pressed a button on his desk. Almost immediately, the door opened to admit 3 heavily armored goblins. Summon Director Ragnarok, Sharpclaw ordered. Tell him we invoke Treaty 7 of the Goblin Accord of 1612. A magical heir under our protection has been systematically defrauded. He paused, his voice dropping. And inform the king. This concerns the Founder Vaults. One of the guards gasped before rushing away. Sharpclaw turned back to Harry. Mr. Potter, Gringotts is offering you sanctuary under ancient treaty. We will heal you, protect you, and recover what was stolen. His eyes gleamed dangerously. And we will bring Albus Dumbledore to justice. Director Ragnarok's office made Sharpclaws look modest by comparison. Golden weapons adorned walls inlaid with precious gems. The director himself, a battle-scarred goblin with a silver beard, studied Harry's inheritance test with mounting fury. This is an attack not only on the Potter heir but on Gringotts itself, he declared. Dumbledore used his position as self-appointed magical guardian to circumvent our security. He will answer for this. Harry sat wrapped in a new, warm cloak that Andromeda had conjured for him. The events of the day felt increasingly dreamlike. Can you really help me? He asked. Ragnarok's fierce expression softened slightly. Young heir, the Goblin nation has maintained the wizarding economy for a millennium. We do not take kindly to theft. He gestured toward a glowing crystal on his desk. I've already sent word to our healers. They're preparing the purification chamber to remove those blocks and charms. A knock at the door interrupted them. A goblin messenger entered, bowing deeply. Director, Chief Warlock Dumbledore is in the main hall demanding to see the Potter boy. He claims kidnapping and invokes his rights as magical guardian. Ragnarok's smile showed too many teeth. Perfect timing. Bring him to Reconciliation Room 3. We'll meet him there. He turned to Harry. Mr. Potter, would you consent to facing this wizard? You'll be completely protected. Harry swallowed hard. Then nodded. Good, Ragnarok said. Healer Tonks, please accompany Mr. Potter. Sharpclaw, prepare the evidence. His eyes glinted. I believe it's time Albus Dumbledore learned that goblins protect their clients. Albus Dumbledore was not having a good day. First, his monitoring devices tied to Harry Potter had gone haywire. Then reports came that the boy had left Privet Drive with unknown individuals. Now he stood in a Gringotts reconciliation room, effectively a courtroom, facing an irate Director Ragnarok and a full Goblin Council. "This is preposterous," Dumbledore declared, his usual twinkle absent from his blue eyes. "I am Harry Potter's magical guardian. I demand his immediate return to his relatives." "You are nothing of the sort," Ragnarok replied coldly. "Self-appointed and never confirmed by magic or ministry." The doors opened, and Harry entered with Andromeda Tonks. Dumbledore's eyes widened momentarily before his grandfatherly mask slipped into place. "Harry, my boy. Thank goodness you're safe." "These creatures have no right to." "These creatures," Harry interrupted, surprising himself with his courage, "showed me what you've been doing with my money." Dumbledore froze. "A misunderstanding, Harry. All funds were used for your protection and future." Sharpclaw stepped forward, placing the inheritance test on the table between them. "A misunderstanding to the tune of 3 million galleons. A misunderstanding that left the heir of 8 houses in rags and starving. A misunderstanding that bound his magic and redirected his mail." Dumbledore's face paled slightly as he scanned the document. "Everything I did was for the greater good," he said finally. "Harry must return to his relatives. There are blood wards powered by love and familial bonds," Andromeda cut in. "Not by abuse and neglect. I've examined him, Albus. Those muggles have been starving him, beating him." "Sacrifices must sometimes be made," Dumbledore said quietly. "There are prophecies in play that you cannot understand." A new voice spoke from the doorway. "Perhaps I might understand them, Albus Dumbledore." Every goblin in the room dropped to one knee as a tall, regal goblin entered. His armor was gold and platinum, his crown set with rubies the size of eggs. "Your Majesty," Ragnarok breathed. "We did not expect. When 3 founder vaults are compromised, I take a personal interest," the Goblin King replied. His ancient eyes fixed on Harry. "Especially when the heir is just a child." He turned to Dumbledore, who for once looked genuinely alarmed. "King Gornik," Dumbledore said carefully. "This is an internal wizard matter. It ceased being internal when you stole from my bank," Gornik replied. "Mr. Potter is now under royal goblin protection. You will relinquish all keys, artifacts, and control immediately." Dumbledore drew himself up. "I cannot allow this." "The boy must. The boy is mine by treaty," Gornik interrupted. "Unless you wish to trigger a goblin rebellion and banking collapse, you will stand down." A tense silence filled the room. Harry watched as Dumbledore's confident expression faltered for the first time. "I see I am outnumbered today," the old wizard said finally. "But Harry must attend Hogwarts when he turns 11. That is non-negotiable for his safety." "He will attend," Gornik agreed. "But under our terms, not yours. And you will repay every galleon taken, with interest." Dumbledore's jaw tightened. "Very well. May I speak with Harry alone before I leave?" "No," Harry said before anyone else could answer. "I don't want to." Dumbledore's eyes flashed with something dark before returning to their grandfatherly twinkle. "As you wish, my boy. We'll speak again at Hogwarts, I'm sure." After Dumbledore departed, escorted by armed goblin guards, Harry let out a breath he hadn't realized he was holding. "What happens now?" he asked the room at large. King Gornik approached, studying Harry with ancient eyes. "Now, young heir, we heal you. We teach you. And we prepare you to reclaim your birthright." He placed a gnarled hand on Harry's shoulder. "The last time a wizard held 8 inheritance lines, he united Albion and brought peace between our peoples. Perhaps history is repeating itself." The purification chamber deep beneath Gringotts glowed with runes Harry couldn't read. He lay on a stone altar, surrounded by goblin healers and Andromeda Tonks. "This will hurt," the lead goblin healer warned. The blocks on your magic are deeply embedded. Removing them and healing your physical injuries simultaneously will be uncomfortable. Harry nodded, determination hardening in his eyes. I want to be free of whatever he did to me. Andromeda squeezed his hand. I'll be right here, Harry. The ritual began with goblin chanting. Golden light swirled around Harry, seeping into his skin. At first, the sensation was warm, pleasant even. Then came the pain. Harry screamed as magic surged through pathways long blocked. His bones ached as old fractures were forced to heal properly. His scar burned white-hot as something black and oily was extracted from it, writhing and shrieking before the goblin healers contained it in a crystal vial. Through it all, Andromeda held his hand, whispering encouragement. The goblin healers worked tirelessly, sweat pouring down their faces as they channeled ancient magic. When it finally ended, Harry lay gasping on the altar. But something felt different. The world seemed sharper, brighter. And inside him, power hummed like electricity. The bindings are gone, the lead healer announced. His magic is free. And the parasite has been removed. Parasite? Andromeda asked sharply. The healer held up the crystal vial containing the oily black substance. A soul fragment. Very dark magic. It appears Harry Potter survived more than just a killing curse that night. Sharp Claw, who had been observing from the edge of the room, stepped forward. This changes everything. We must inform the king immediately. Harry sat up slowly, marveling at how good he felt. No hunger pangs. No aching joints. No glasses, somehow his vision had been corrected as well. I can feel my magic now, he whispered. It's amazing. Andromeda smiled, though her eyes remained worried. That's how it should have been all along, Harry. Later, bathed and dressed in fine robes bearing the crests of all 8 houses, Harry sat in a comfortable room deep within Gringotts. King Gornik, Director Ragnarok, Sharp Claw, and Andromeda sat with him, discussing his future. Legally, we've invoked the Treaty of 1612, Ragnarok explained. This places you under our protection until you come of age or until the theft from your vaults is fully rectified. Dumbledore cannot touch you here. But I can't live in a bank forever, Harry pointed out. King Gornik nodded. Which is why we need a wizard guardian who can represent your interests in the magical world. He looked to Andromeda. Healer Tonks, would you consider this role? You're distantly related through the Black family, and you've already shown your willingness to protect the boy. Andromeda looked surprised. I would be honored. But my husband is a Muggle-born. Some of the ancient families might object. Let them, Sharp Claw said dismissively. Harry Potter holds enough political power to silence any objections once he claims his seats on the Wizengamot. Harry looked between them. I have political power too. 8 votes on the Wizengamot, Ragnarok confirmed. Nearly a fifth of the governing body. Plus the associated lordships, properties, and business interests. Harry's head spun again. Just that morning, he'd been a nobody sleeping in a cupboard. I don't know anything about being a lord or running businesses, he admitted. Gornik's eyes twinkled, nothing like Dumbledore's manipulative gleam, but with genuine amusement. That, young heir, is why you'll spend the next few years learning. Goblin banking. Wizard politics. Magical combat. By the time you enter Hogwarts, you'll be prepared to face whatever Dumbledore has planned. Harry looked at Andromeda. Would I live with you? She smiled warmly. If you'd like to. My husband Ted is a lawyer in both the magical and Muggle worlds. He could help with your case. And our daughter Nymphadora is at Hogwarts now, she'd be thrilled to have a little brother. For the first time in his life, Harry felt hope bloom in his chest. I'd like that. Then it's settled, King Gornik declared. Andromeda Tonks will be your wizard guardian. You'll split your time between her home and Gringotts for training. And will begin the process of reclaiming what was stolen from you. His ancient face grew serious. Make no mistake, Heir Potter. Albus Dumbledore is a powerful enemy. He will not surrender control easily. The coming years will not be simple. Harry nodded, a new determination hardening inside him. I've survived the Dursleys. I've survived whatever was in my scar. I'll survive Dumbledore too. Albus Dumbledore paced his office at Hogwarts, his usual calm shattered. Instruments that had monitored Harry Potter for years lay in pieces on the floor, having exploded when the goblin healers removed his spells. This changes everything, Fawkes, he told his Phoenix companion. The boy was meant to be malleable, grateful for rescue when his Hogwarts letter came. The Phoenix trilled a sad song. Don't judge me, Dumbledore snapped. The prophecy is clear. The boy must die to destroy the Horcrux in his scar. Better he die willingly, for the greater good. Fawkes turned his back on his human companion. The goblins have removed the soul fragment, Dumbledore continued, thinking aloud. But Voldemort made more. The boy is still connected to the prophecy. He sank into his chair, suddenly looking every year of his considerable age. I'll need a new plan. The stone will arrive next year, perhaps that will draw Tom out. And I still control Hogwarts. When Harry arrives, he'll find I'm not so easily outmaneuvered. His eyes hardened as he looked at a ledger showing his personal finances. The goblins would reclaim the Potter gold, certainly. But there were other sources. Other families who would contribute to the greater good. This is just a setback, he told himself. The greater good will prevail. Harry stood on the balcony of his room in Gringotts, looking out over a hidden goblin city that few wizards had ever seen. Thousands of dwellings and workshops carved into the bedrock beneath London, lit by magical crystals that mimicked sunlight. Amazing, isn't it? Sharpclaw said, joining him. Most wizards think we goblins just count their gold. They have no idea about our civilization. Why show me? Harry asked. Sharpclaw studied him thoughtfully. Because you're unique, Harry Potter. 8 inheritance lines. Prophecies swirling around you. And most importantly, you looked at us and saw people, not creatures. He handed Harry a small golden key. This opens your personal vault. We've set aside a portion of your recovered assets. The rest will remain protected until you're older. Harry clutched the key, overwhelmed again by how much his life had changed in a single day. Get some rest, Sharpclaw advised. Tomorrow, your training begins. Bloodfang is our finest combat instructor, and he's agreed to take you on personally. Combat? Harry asked, suddenly nervous. Sharpclaw's expression grew serious. Dumbledore is not your only enemy, Harry Potter. The Dark Lord who gave you that scar is not truly dead. The soul fragment we found proves it. Voldemort's coming back. Harry whispered. Eventually. And when he does, you'll need to be ready. Sharpclaw placed a gnarled hand on Harry's shoulder. But this time, you won't face him alone. The Goblin Nation stands with the heir of 8 houses. As night fell over the hidden city, Harry Potter, no longer unwanted, no longer ignorant of his heritage, watched the magical lights come on across the underground expanse. For the first time in his memory, he felt something unfamiliar. He felt at home. Chapter 2, Forging the Heir, again. 11-year-old Harry Potter spun away from the blade that whistled past his ear, dropping into a low crouch before launching himself forward. His own goblin-forged dagger, a 10th birthday gift from King Gornik himself, flashed in the torchlight as he slashed at his opponent's knees. Bloodfang, Harry's combat instructor for nearly 4 years, sidestepped with surprising agility for a goblin his age. Better. But your right side is still open. To prove his point, the old warrior tapped Harry's ribs with the flat of his blade. Harry grimaced. That would have been my 3rd death today. And in real combat, your last. Bloodfang's scarred face broke into a rare grin. But you've improved. 4 years ago, you couldn't hold a blade without cutting yourself. Harry wiped sweat from his brow, pushing back hair that now reached his shoulders and was tied with gold and silver threads, markers of his status among the Goblin nation. 4 years ago, I was a half-starved runt living in a cupboard. And now? Bloodfang challenged, circling him again. Harry straightened, standing tall in the practice ring. At 11, he'd grown to a respectable height, his once skeletal frame now packed with lean muscle from years of goblin combat training. The lightning bolt scar on his forehead had faded to a thin silver line. Now I'm the heir of 8 houses, Harry answered, dropping into a ready stance. And I'm still not fast enough. He lunged suddenly, a feint Bloodfang had taught him. When the goblin moved to counter, Harry switched directions, his free hand flicking out with a wandless, Lumos Maxima. The flash of light momentarily blinded Bloodfang. By the time the goblin blinked away the spots, Harry's blade rested against his throat. Ha! Bloodfang barked, pushing the dagger away. Using wizard magic in a blade duel. Dishonorable. But his yellow eyes gleamed with pride. Harry grinned back. You've always said to use every advantage. Besides, when Dumbledore or Voldemort come for me, they won't fight fair. True enough, Bloodfang conceded. Enough for today. Sharpclaw wants you in the accounts room. Something about your Wizengamot proxy votes. Harry sheathed his dagger, bowing respectfully to his instructor before leaving the training room. He navigated the winding passages of Gringotts underground complex with the ease of long familiarity. Goblins nodded respectfully as he passed, no longer the oddity he'd been 4 years ago, but a fixture of their world. In the grand marble corridor that housed the senior account manager's offices, Harry passed a large mural that hadn't been there when he'd first arrived. It depicted a young wizard standing alongside the Goblin King, with 8 family crests arrayed above them. Beneath it, in both gobbledygook and English, were the words, "The air brings change." Harry smiled wryly at the mural. The goblins hadn't been subtle about the prophecies they discovered in the Hall of Records, prophecies that suggested Harry might bridge the divide between wizard and goblin societies. He wasn't sure about all that, but he appreciated how they treated him like family. Thinking deep thoughts, "Pup," came a warm voice behind him. Harry turned to find Andromeda Tonks, his wizard guardian, healer, and surrogate mother for the past 4 years, walking toward him, elegant as always in dove-grey robes. Just wondering how much of that mural is prophecy and how much is Gornik's political maneuvering, Harry replied with a grin. Andromeda laughed. A healthy skepticism. Ted's rubbing off on you. Her expression softened. You've got dirt on your face. Important meeting with Sharpclaw, remember? She licked her thumb and rubbed at a smudge on his cheek. Harry wrinkled his nose but allowed it. How are the negotiations with the Wizengamot going? He asked as they walked toward Sharpclaw's office. Andromeda's expression tightened. Dumbledore's faction is still blocking our attempt to get a full criminal investigation. They keep insisting his actions were, in your best interest, and merely, administrative oversights. Administrative oversights worth £15 million, Harry muttered. Any progress on the Black Seat? That's what today's meeting is about, actually, Andromeda replied as they reached Sharpclaw's ornate door. Ted thinks we found a loophole. Sharpclaw's office had become as familiar to Harry as his bedroom at Tonks Cottage. The goblin sat behind his massive desk, Harry's account ledger spread before him. Ted Tonks, a burly, kind-faced man with a booming laugh and shrewd legal mind, sat in one of the visitor chairs, making notes on a legal pad. Ah, the warrior returns, Sharpclaw said as Harry entered. Did you finally best Bloodfang? Only by cheating, Harry admitted, dropping into the chair beside Ted. Ted ruffled Harry's hair. That's my boy. When outmatched, change the rules. Sharpclaw's lips quirked in what passed for a goblin smile. A philosophy that serves us well in today's meeting. We've been examining the Black family magic more closely. He pushed forward an ancient tome bound in black leather. As blood-adopted heir to Sirius Black, you have certain rights that even Dumbledore cannot contest. Harry frowned. But Sirius Black is in Azkaban for betraying my parents. Why would he have blood-adopted me? It was a question that had bothered Harry since discovering his connection to the Black family. Ted and Sharpclaw exchanged significant looks. That's the interesting part, Ted said, leaning forward. I've been reviewing the court records of Black's case. Or rather, trying to. There aren't any. What do you mean? Harry asked. He means, Andromeda interjected, that my cousin never received a trial. He was thrown directly into Azkaban on Barty Crouch's orders, with Dumbledore's approval. Harry's eyes widened. But that's illegal. Precisely, Sharpclaw said, looking pleased at Harry's grasp of wizard law. Which creates our opportunity. As blood-adopted heir, you can demand a trial for Lord Black under Article 7 of the Ancient Houses Protection Act. Ted nodded enthusiastically. And during pre-trial motions, we can request Veritaserum testimony, truth serum, he added at Harry's questioning look. If Black is innocent. Then Dumbledore allowed my godfather to rot in prison for a decade, Harry finished, anger flaring inside him. Another manipulation. It fits his pattern, Andromeda said quietly. Isolate you from anyone who might have a legitimate claim to raise you. Harry stared at the Black family crest on the book before him. So what do we do? We've already filed the paperwork, Ted said, grinning. Hearing set for next week. Caught them completely off guard. Dumbledore will attempt to block it, Sharpclaw warned. He's still Chief Warlock. Let him try, Harry said, a hardness in his voice that belied his 11 years. It'll just give us more ammunition. Sharpclaw nodded approvingly. Now, on to other business. Your Hogwarts letter arrived yesterday. He handed Harry a heavy envelope addressed in green ink. Despite knowing it was coming, Harry felt a thrill as he broke the wax seal and read, Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry Headmaster, Albus Dumbledore, Order of Merlin, First Class, Grand Source, CHF, Warlock, Supreme Mugwump, International Confeed, of Wizards. Dear Mr. Potter, we are pleased to inform you that you have been accepted at Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry. Please find enclosed a list of all necessary books and equipment. Term begins on September 1st. We await your owl by no later than July 31st. Yours sincerely, Minerva McGonagall, Deputy Headmistress. Do I have to go? Harry asked quietly. After everything Dumbledore's done? You need a wizard education, Andromeda replied gently. And Hogwarts is still the best magical school in Europe. Besides, Ted added with a wink, how else will you publicly humiliate the old goat on his home turf? Harry snorted, then nodded decisively. You're right. Running away would look like fear. And a Potter never shows fear, came a new voice from the doorway. They turned to see Griphook, one of the younger goblins Harry had befriended. He carried a large package wrapped in cloth. The items you requested from the Potter Vault, Heir Potter, Griphook announced, placing the package on Sharpclaw's desk. Successfully retrieved without alerting the headmaster's monitoring charms. Thanks, Griphook, Harry said warmly. Any trouble with the high-security vaults? Griphook puffed up proudly. None. Though the dragon nearly singed my eyebrows when I passed the Lestrange vault. Harry carefully unwrapped the package, revealing several books and a wand holster. My father's journals, he said softly, running a hand over the leather-bound books. And my mother's charm notebooks. Andromeda squeezed his shoulder. Study them well. Lily was brilliant with charms, and James was no slouch at transfiguration. Harry nodded, then looked up at Sharpclaw. I think it's time for a shopping trip to Diagon Alley. Very publicly. Sharpclaw's smile showed too many teeth. I thought you might say that. I've already arranged a security detail. Diagon Alley bustled with pre-Hogwarts shopping crowds when Harry stepped through the leaky cauldron 2 days later. Flanked by Andromeda and Ted, with 4 goblin guards in formal armor walking in formation around them, Harry deliberately let his hair shift to reveal his lightning bolt scar. The reaction was immediate. Whispers spread like wildfire, "It's Harry Potter. With goblins? Is that Andromeda Black with him? What's going on?" Harry kept his expression neutral, shoulders back in the posture Bloodfang had drilled into him. His robes, deep green with the Potter crest prominently displayed and 7 other house crests in smaller form beneath it, had been specifically designed for this public debut. Their first stop was Ollivander's. As they approached the ancient wand shop, the door opened before they reached it. "I wondered when I'd be seeing you, Mr. Potter," said a soft voice. Garrick Ollivander stood in the doorway, his silvery eyes widening at Harry's goblin escort. Most unusual companions for a young wizard. "Mr. Ollivander," Harry replied with a formal bow. "I require a wand that suits my unique circumstances." Ollivander studied him intently. "Yes, I imagine you do. Please, enter." Inside the dusty shop, Harry felt the tingle of ancient magic. Ollivander circled him slowly. "Your mother's wand was willow, 10¼ inches, excellent for charm work. Your father favored mahogany, 11 inches, powerful for transfiguration." Ollivander paused. "I sense multiple magical inheritances in you, Mr. Potter. Finding your match may be challenging." For the next hour, Harry tried wand after wand. Holly. Oak. Ash. Nothing felt right. The pile of rejected wands grew until finally, Ollivander frowned. "How curious," he murmured. "Perhaps." He disappeared into the back room, returning with a dusty box. An unusual combination. Holly and phoenix feather, 11 inches, nice and supple. The moment Harry touched it, warmth spread through his fingers. He raised the wand and brought it swishing down, producing a stream of gold and silver sparks. "Curious," Ollivander repeated. "Most curious." "What's curious?" Harry asked, though Bloodfang had taught him never to ask questions he didn't want answered. "I remember every wand I've ever sold, Mr. Potter. The phoenix who gave the feather for your wand gave just one other. Its brother gave you that scar." Harry stared at the wand in his hand. "Voldemort's wand is my wand's brother?" Ted cleared his throat uncomfortably, but Ollivander merely nodded. 7 galleons, Mr. Potter. I expect great things from you. After all, he who must not be named did great things, terrible, but great. Outside the shop, Harry slipped the wand into the dragon-hide holster from his father's vault. That was unsettling. Ollivander has always been eccentric, Andromeda assured him. Don't read too much into it. Their next stop was Madame Malkin's, where Harry's entrance caused the shop owner to drop a pile of fabric. A pale, pointed-faced boy being fitted nearby looked over with curiosity that transformed into calculation when he spotted Harry's scar and goblin escort. "Potter?" the boy asked as Harry took the fitting platform beside him. "Yes," Harry replied neutrally, assessing the boy. "And you are?" "Malfoy. Draco Malfoy." The boy extended his hand. "My father's told me all about you." Harry raised an eyebrow as he shook Malfoy's hand. "Has he? That's interesting, since I haven't met him yet." Malfoy flushed slightly. "Well, you know. The boy who lived and all that." His eyes flicked to the goblin guards. "Not many wizards get a goblin escort." "I'm not many wizards," Harry replied simply. "Obviously." Malfoy looked thoughtful. "Will you be in Slytherin?" Harry gave a noncommittal smile. "I have inheritance from all 4 houses, so who knows? Does it matter?" "Of course it matters." Malfoy looked scandalized. "Slytherin's the best house. My whole family's been there." "My mother was a Gryffindor," Harry said. "My father too." They were pretty brilliant. Before Malfoy could respond, a tall man with the same platinum hair entered the shop. Lucius Malfoy stopped cold at the sight of Harry surrounded by goblin guards. "Mr. Potter," he said smoothly, recovering quickly. "What an unexpected pleasure." Harry inclined his head slightly. The barest minimum of respect Andromeda had taught him to show to a head of house. "Lord Malfoy. I was just meeting your son." Lucius's eyes narrowed slightly at the formal address, taking in Harry's crested robes and confident posture. "I see you're being well advised in your return to our world." "The Goblin Nation protects its interests," said the lead Goblin guard pointedly. "As does Herr Potter." An almost imperceptible flash of concern crossed Lucius's face. "Indeed. Come, Draco. We have other shopping to complete." As the Malfoys departed, Ted chuckled. "You've got Lucius worried. He's one of Dumbledore's biggest political opponents, but he's also a rumored Death Eater. Seeing you with Goblin protection throws all his assumptions into chaos." "Good," Harry said firmly. "Let them all wonder." By the time they reached Flourish and Blots, whispers had become open staring. The store manager nearly tripped over himself offering assistance. Harry selected his required textbooks, plus several advanced works on magical law, goblin treaties, and defensive magic that Sharpclaw had recommended. At the counter, a flash of red caught Harry's eye. A family of redheads, all with second-hand robes but bright smiles, were checking out with a stack of used books. "The Weasleys," Andromeda murmured to Harry. "Arthur works at the ministry. Good family, though perpetually short on galleons. The youngest boy should be starting Hogwarts this year too." Harry watched as the mother counted out sickles carefully. Making a quick decision, he approached them. "Excuse me," he said politely. "Are you Hogwarts students too?" The youngest boy turned, his eyes widening as he took in Harry's scar, robes, and goblin guards. "Bloody hell, you're Harry Potter." "Ronald," his mother scolded, then turned an embarrassed smile to Harry. "I'm Molly Weasley, dear. This is Ron, who's starting this year. Fred and George are third years, and Percy's a fifth-year prefect." Harry smiled. "Nice to meet you all. I just found out I'm a wizard a few years ago. Still learning the ropes." This was a calculated half-truth. While Harry had indeed discovered his magical heritage only 4 years ago, he'd spent those years intensively studying wizard culture and politics under Andromeda's guidance. "Don't worry, mate," said one of the twins with a wink. "We'll show you around Hogwarts." "Yeah," said the other. "All the secret passages and hidden rooms." "Fred. George. Don't you dare get him into trouble," Mrs. Weasley warned. Harry laughed. "I'd appreciate the help, actually. I hear Dumbledore has the place rigged with all sorts of surprises." His emphasis on the word wasn't lost on Mr. Weasley, whose eyebrows rose slightly. "You seem well informed for someone new to our world, Harry." "The goblins have been very educational," Harry replied. "Did you know they maintain detailed records of all withdrawals from Gringotts vaults? Including unauthorized ones?" An awkward silence fell. The Weasleys exchanged looks. "We should let you finish your shopping," Mr. Weasley said finally. "Perhaps we'll see you on the platform on September 1st. "Count on it," Harry said with genuine warmth. Despite his pointed comment, he'd liked the family's straightforward manner. As the Weasleys left, Andromeda leaned close. "Arthur's aligned with Dumbledore politically. But he's known for his integrity. Planting that seed might bear fruit." Their final stop was Magical Menagerie, where Harry browsed the available familiars. Cats, toads, and rats failed to interest him, but as he turned to leave, a flash of white caught his attention. A snowy owl in a cage near the back watched him with intelligent amber eyes. The moment their gazes met, Harry felt a connection snap into place. "She's been waiting for you," the shopkeeper said. "Most particular bird." Wouldn't let anyone touch her for weeks. Harry approached the cage. The owl studied him, then gave a soft hoot and extended a wing. "I'll take her," Harry said immediately. "What's her name?" "That's for you to decide, lad." Harry studied the regal bird. "Hedwig," he decided. "A name from A History of Magic." The owl hooted approvingly. The Hogwarts Express gleamed scarlet against platform 9 3/4 smoky backdrop. Harry stood with the Tonks family, his trunk packed with more than just school supplies. Hidden compartments contained goblin-made weapons, communication mirrors, and emergency port keys, preparations Bloodfang had insisted upon. "Remember," Andromeda said, straightening his plain black robes, "Dumbledore will try to manipulate you through the sorting. The hat might be under his influence." Harry nodded. "I know the occlumency techniques. And I've got the air rings." He held up his right hand, where a single gold ring sat. 8 tiny gemstones circled its band, each representing one of his house inheritances. "The hearing for Sirius is in 3 weeks, Ted reminded him. "I'll send updates through the secure mirror. And I'll keep an eye on you through the hospital wing," added Nymphadora Tonks, Andromeda's daughter who had recently graduated Hogwarts and begun aura training. Her hair shifted from pink to black as she hugged Harry. "Any trouble, you call me. I can be there in minutes through Hogsmeade." "I'll be fine," Harry assured them, though the weight of the coming confrontation with Dumbledore sat heavy on his shoulders. "I've been training for this for 4 years." A commotion near the platform entrance drew their attention. Albus Dumbledore, resplendent in purple robes, had arrived to see off the students, an unusual occurrence for the headmaster. His eyes scanned the platform, obviously searching. "He's looking for you," Ted murmured. "Trying to orchestrate your first meeting." Harry's jaw tightened. "Let him look. I'm boarding from the far end." After final hugs and a few tears from Andromeda, Harry slipped through the crowd toward the last car. He'd nearly reached it when he bumped into a bushy-haired girl struggling with a heavy trunk. "Sorry," they said simultaneously. The girl's eyes widened as she recognized him. "You're Harry Potter. I've read all about you in Modern Magical History and The Rise and Fall of the Dark Arts." Harry winced. "Those books are mostly fiction. The authors never spoke to me." "Oh," the girl looked crestfallen. "I'm Hermione Granger. I'm Muggle-born, so I've been reading everything I could to catch up." Harry smiled genuinely. "Nothing wrong with research. Just check your sources." He helped her lift her trunk onto the train. "Want to share a compartment? I could use a research-minded friend at Hogwarts." Hermione beamed. "Really? That would be brilliant." They found an empty compartment in the last car. Harry stowed their trunks, then cast a subtle detection charm Sharpclaw had taught him, checking for monitoring spells. Finding none, he relaxed slightly. "Was that a spell?" Hermione asked, impressed. "We haven't even started school yet." Harry shrugged. "I've had some unique tutoring." The door slid open to reveal Ron Weasley from the bookshop. "Mind if I join you? Everywhere else is full." "Sure," Harry replied, genuinely glad to see the redhead. "Ron, this is Hermione Granger." "Hermione, Ron Weasley." Ron flopped onto a seat. "Wicked to see you again, Harry. Mum and Dad had a massive row after meeting you in Diagon Alley. Something about unauthorized withdrawals and trusting too blindly." Harry raised an eyebrow. "Really? Interesting." "Yeah," Ron continued, oblivious to Harry's calculating look. "Dad sent an owl to Gringotts the next day. Been acting weird ever since. Says we might be getting some kind of restitution payment." Hermione looked between them, confused. "What's going on?" "Politics," Harry said simply. "Messy wizard politics." The train lurched into motion. As London slipped away outside their window, Harry felt a strange mix of anticipation and dread. For 4 years, he'd prepared for this moment, his return to the wizard world proper, his confrontation with Dumbledore. The pieces were in motion. The game had begun. "So what house do you think you'll be in?" Ron asked, breaking into Harry's thoughts. "No idea," Harry replied truthfully. "You? Gryffindor, I hope. All my family's been there." Ron looked nervous suddenly. "Fred and George told me we have to wrestle a troll for sorting." Hermione looked alarmed. "That can't be right. Hogwarts, a history, doesn't mention any troll wrestling." Harry laughed. "It's a hat, actually. A mind-reading hat that looks at your qualities and puts you where it thinks you fit best." Ron looked relieved, then suspicious. "How'd you know that?" "It's supposed to be a secret from first years." "Goblins," Harry said with a shrug. "They're big on preparation." The compartment door slid open again. Draco Malfoy stood there with 2 larger boys flanking him. "Potter," Malfoy said, "thought I'd check if the rumors were true. They're saying all down the train that Harry Potter's formed an alliance with the Goblin Nation. Planning to claim your Wizengamot seats early?" Harry kept his expression neutral. "Just making friends, Malfoy. Wizard and Goblin alike." Draco's eyes flicked to Ron and Hermione. "You'll find some wizarding families are better than others, Potter. I can help you there." He extended his hand, just as he had in Madame Malkin's. This time, however, the gesture carried weight, a public offer of alliance. Harry considered it for a moment. "I appreciate the offer, Draco. But I think I'll determine quality for myself." Malfoy's face flushed. "Your parents made the wrong choices too. Look where it got them." Harry's expression hardened. In a movement too fast to follow, the result of years of Bloodfang's training, he was suddenly standing, his holly wand pointed at Malfoy's throat. "Insult my parents again," Harry said quietly, "and our next conversation will be between our family solicitors." Draco swallowed, clearly not expecting this level of response. "You've got nerve, Potter." "More than nerve," Harry replied. "I've got 8 house votes on the Wizengamot. Your father might want to remember that before you throw around insults." The compartment fell silent. Even Ron and Hermione seemed stunned by this revelation. 8 houses? Draco finally whispered, his face pale. Harry lowered his wand. "We'll see each other at school, Malfoy. Maybe next time we can have a more productive conversation." After Malfoy and his cronies retreated, Harry sat back down, aware of Ron and Hermione's stares. 8 house votes. Ron echoed. "That's impossible. Nobody has more than 2 or 3. Harry twisted the air ring on his finger. "My heritage is complicated. That's why the goblins protect you," Hermione said, piecing it together. "You're not just Harry Potter. You're, who, exactly?" Harry sighed, deciding honesty was his best approach with potential allies. "Heir Potter, Peveril, Gryffindor, Black, Evans, Slytherin, Gaunt, and Ravenclaw. But I'd rather just be Harry, if it's all the same to you." Ron's mouth hung open. "Bloody hell. You're related to the founders." "Language, Ronald," Hermione scolded automatically, but her eyes remained fixed on Harry. "That's why you seemed so confident with Malfoy. You outrank him politically." Harry nodded. "But I'd rather make friends based on character, not politics." The tension broke as Ron grinned. "Well, as the strategic genius of House Weasley, I offer my services. First piece of advice, buy the whole food trolley when it comes by. Nothing secures loyalty like chocolate frogs." Harry laughed, grateful for Ron's ability to lighten the mood. When the trolley came by, he did indeed buy a small mountain of treats, which they shared as the countryside rolled past. As the train approached Hogsmeade Station, Harry excused himself to change into his school robes. In the privacy of the bathroom, he removed a communication mirror from his pocket. "Sharp claw," he said clearly. The mirror's surface rippled before revealing the goblin's face. "Herr Potter. Have you arrived?" "Almost," Harry replied. "Any updates on Dumbledore's movements?" "Our sources say he's been frantically researching goblin protection treaties. He's also pulled strings at the Ministry to have Hagrid meet the boats instead of McGonagall. Likely trying to place someone loyal to him as your first Hogwarts contact." Harry nodded. "As we expected. The Weasley information was interesting too. Sounds like Arthur's investigating Dumbledore's financial activities." "Yes, our records show he filed formal inquiries after your meeting in Diagon Alley. Dumbledore had been siphoning small amounts from the Ministry's education fund into several families' accounts, payment for their loyalty. The Weasleys were beneficiaries, though it appears without their knowledge." "Keep me posted," Harry said. "I should go before I'm missed." "One moment, Herr Potter," Sharpclaw said, his expression unusually somber. "King Gornick asked me to remind you, you carry the hopes of two peoples now. Wizard and goblin alike." Harry swallowed hard. "No pressure, then." Sharpclaw's face softened slightly. "You've been well prepared. Trust your training. And remember, Bloodfong says, a warrior's greatest weapon is here," Harry finished, tapping his temple. "I remember." The train whistle blew as Harry returned to the compartment. Outside the windows, Hogsmeade Station appeared through the evening mist. "Time to face the music," Harry murmured to himself as they gathered their things. "Fur's years. Fur's years over here." A giant of a man with a wild beard waved a lantern, calling the new students toward the edge of a vast, black lake. Hagrid, Harry presumed, Dumbledore's gamekeeper and reportedly fanatically loyal to the headmaster. "No more N4 to a boat," Hagrid called. Harry, Ron, and Hermione climbed into a boat joined by a round-faced boy who introduced himself as Neville Longbottom. As their boat glided across the lake, Harry studied Neville thoughtfully. According to Andromeda, the Longbottoms had been close allies of the Potters during the war. "Neville," Harry said quietly, "did you know our parents were friends?" Neville looked startled. Gran mentioned it once. "Your dad and mine were Auror partners for a bit." Harry nodded. "We should talk more at the castle. I think there's a lot we might have in common." Neville looked both terrified and pleased at the idea. The boats rounded a bend, and Hogwarts came into view for the first time, a magnificent castle perched atop a mountain, windows blazing against the night sky. Harry felt a strange tingle as they approached, almost like recognition. "The wards are acknowledging you," Hermione whispered, noticing his expression. "I read that Hogwarts sometimes responds to heirs of the founders." Harry nodded slightly, impressed by her perception. When they reached the shore, Hagrid led them up to the castle doors, which swung open to reveal Professor McGonagall, a stern-looking witch with her hair in a tight bun. "The Fur's years, Professor McGonagall," Hagrid announced. "Thank you, Hagrid," she replied. Her eyes scanned the crowd of children, pausing momentarily on Harry. Something flickered in her expression, surprise, perhaps, at his appearance, so different from what she might have expected. McGonagall led them into a small chamber off the entrance hall, explaining the sorting procedure and house system. Harry half listened, focusing instead on the magical energies around him. For years of goblin magical training had heightened his sensitivity to wards and enchantments. "Someone's scanning us," he whispered to Hermione. "Magical signature feels like peppermint and lemons." "Dumbledore," she guessed. Harry nodded slightly. "Be careful what you think about around him. He's a legilimens, a mind reader." Hermione's eyes widened in alarm. "That's legal?" "Gray area," Harry murmured. "Hard to prove." Professor McGonagall returned to lead them into the Great Hall, a breathtaking space with thousands of floating candles and a ceiling enchanted to show the night sky. For long tables filled with students watched the first year's procession. At the head table sat the teachers, with Albus Dumbledore in the center on a throne-like chair. Harry met the headmaster's eyes briefly, noting the momentary shock that crossed the old wizard's face. Clearly, Dumbledore had expected a scrawny, ignorant boy, not the confident young heir who stood before him. McGonagall placed a patched, frayed wizard's hat on a stool. To the first year's amazement, the hat twitched, then began to sing about the four houses and their qualities. Harry listened intently for any hint of bias or manipulation in the hat's song but found none. The sorting began. Hannah Abbott became a Hufflepuff. Susan Bones, another Hufflepuff. Harry observed each sorting carefully, noting that some took mere seconds while others stretched to nearly a minute. Granger, Hermione. Hermione walked nervously to the stool. The hat deliberated for nearly a full minute before shouting, Ravenclaw. Looking both surprised and pleased, Hermione headed to the Ravenclaw table, shooting Harry an encouraging smile. More names followed. Neville became a Gryffindor after a surprisingly long deliberation. Malfoy was instantly sorted into Slytherin. Finally, Potter, Harry. The hall fell silent as Harry stepped forward. Whispers erupted as he approached the stool, "Is that really him? He doesn't look how I expected. Did you see his robes on the train? They had goblin runes." Harry sat on the stool, and McGonagall placed the hat on his head. "Well, well," said a small voice in his ear. "What have we here? Oh my, 8 inheritances. I haven't seen such a complicated mind since the founders themselves." Harry remained silent, his occlumency shields firmly in place. "No need for shields with me, Mr. Potter," the hat chuckled. "I'm bound to secrecy. But I see your caution is well-founded. Dumbledore has indeed tampered with me over the years. Asked me to place certain students in specific houses. Including me?" Harry thought. "Oh yes. Gryffindor, at all costs. For the greater good, you understand." Harry snorted mentally. "And what do you think?" The hat seemed to ponder. "You have qualities of all 4 houses, Mr. Potter. Courage for Gryffindor, certainly. A fine mind for Ravenclaw. Loyalty for Hufflepuff. An ambition and cunning that would make Slytherin proud. Where would I be most successful?" Harry asked pragmatically. "Ah, a Slytherin question," the hat replied, amused. "But asked with Ravenclaw logic. Tell me, what are your goals at Hogwarts?" Harry considered carefully. "To learn magic. To build alliances. To expose Dumbledore's manipulations. And to prepare for Voldemort's eventual return." Ambitious indeed, the hat mused. "In that case, better be Slytherin." The hat shouted the last word to the entire hall. A shocked silence followed, then scattered applause led by the Slytherin table. Harry removed the hat, noticing Dumbledore's barely concealed dismay and Professor McGonagall's surprise. As he walked toward the Slytherin table, Harry caught Draco Malfoy's calculating gaze. The blond boy shifted slightly, making room beside him. Harry hesitated, then deliberately sat across from Malfoy rather than next to him, close enough for alliance, distant enough to maintain independence. "Interesting choice, Potter," Malfoy said quietly as the sorting continued. "The hat's choice, not mine," Harry replied easily. "Though I'm not disappointed." A dark-skinned boy next to Malfoy leaned forward. "Blaise Zabini," he introduced himself. "My mother will be fascinated to hear you're in Slytherin. She's been watching your Goblin alliance with interest." "Neutral faction?" Harry guessed, recalling Andromeda's political lessons. Blaise looked impressed. "Precisely. Neither light nor dark, but power-oriented." "A sensible approach," Harry replied diplomatically. The sorting concluded with Weasley, Ronald becoming a Gryffindor and Zabini, Blaise, joining Slytherin. Dumbledore rose to his feet, spreading his arms wide. "Welcome to a new year at Hogwarts," he announced. Before we begin our feast, I would like to say a few words, nitwit. Blubber. Oddment. Tweak. Food appeared on the golden plates, but Harry's appetite had diminished as he studied Dumbledore from the corner of his eye. The headmaster was conversing with McGonagall while shooting occasional glances toward the Slytherin table. Is he always like that? Harry asked an older student. Dumbledore? Yeah, plays the eccentric genius, replied a prefect who introduced himself as Marcus Flint. Our head of house, Professor Snape, thinks it's an act. Speaking of. Flint nodded toward a hook-nosed professor with greasy black hair who was studying Harry with an unreadable expression. Professor Snape teaches potions, explained a girl named Daphne Greengrass. He's brilliant but strict. Favors Slytherins, though. Harry met Snape's gaze steadily. According to Andromeda, Snape had a complicated history with his parents, hating his father but possibly in love with his mother. The professor looked away first, turning to speak with a nervous-looking man in a purple turban. A sharp pain suddenly lanced through Harry's scar. He winced, pressing a hand to his forehead. You all right, Potter? Malfoy asked, more curious than concerned. Fine, Harry said automatically. Who's the professor with the turban? Quirrell, Flint supplied. Teaches defense against the dark arts. Complete joke. Stutters so badly you can't understand him. Harry frowned, studying Quirrell more carefully. The pain had subsided, but something felt off about the professor. He made a mental note to contact Sharpclaw about it later. As the feast progressed, Harry carefully built rapport with his new housemates. He answered their cautious questions with deliberate vagueness, neither confirming nor denying the rumors about his goblin connections. By dessert, he'd established himself as neither hostile nor submissive, a position that earned wary respect in Slytherin. After the feast, Dumbledore rose again to make announcements. Most seemed standard until, and finally, I must tell you that this year, the third-floor corridor on the right-hand side is out of bounds to everyone who does not wish to die a very painful death. Harry exchanged glances with Blaise. Is he serious? Must be, Blaise replied. Though it's odd. Usually, he gives reasons for keeping us out of places. Almost like he wants curious students to investigate, Harry murmured, already suspicious. The prefects led the first years to the Slytherin dormitories in the dungeons. After speaking a password, ambition, to a blank stone wall, they entered a long, low room with greenish lamps and carved chairs. Windows looked out into the depths of the lake, casting a green tinge over everything. Professor Snape swept in moments later for what was apparently a traditional welcome speech. You have been sorted into the noble house of Slytherin, he began, his voice barely above a whisper yet carrying to every corner. This means you have demonstrated ambition, cunning, and resourcefulness. These are valuable traits, but they often earn the suspicion of other houses. His black eyes surveyed them coldly. Therefore, whatever disagreements you may have with each other remain within these walls. Outside, you present a united front. Slytherins protect their own. His gaze lingered on Harry. Some of you come with unexpected backgrounds or connections. Those may be assets or liabilities depending on how you employ them. Choose wisely. With that cryptic remark, he swept from the room as suddenly as he'd arrived. The first-year boys were shown to their dormitory, a room with 5 four-poster beds hung with green silk curtains. Harry found his trunk already placed beside one, with Hedwig's cage on a nearby stand. The snowy owl hooted softly in greeting. As his dorm-mates prepared for bed, Harry drew his curtains and cast privacy wards Bloodfawn had taught him. Then he retrieved his communication mirror. Sharpclaw, he whispered. The goblin's face appeared, looking concerned. Potter. How went the sorting? Slytherin, Harry replied. The hat mentioned Dumbledore tried to rig it for Gryffindor. Unsurprising, Sharpclaw grunted. How did the old wizard react? Poorly, though he hid it well. But something else happened. When I looked at the defense professor, my scar hurt. Just for a moment. Sharpclaw's expression grew grave. The scar left by the Dark Lord? That could indicate dark magic. Describe this, Professor. Harry detailed Quirrell's appearance and behavior. Sharpclaw made notes, looking increasingly troubled. We'll investigate. The soul fragment we extracted from your scar suggests a connection to the Dark Lord. If your scar reacted, it could mean Voldemort isn't as dead as everyone thinks, Harry finished grimly. Precisely. Be vigilant, Herr Potter. And what of the headmaster's other activities? Any obvious manipulations? Harry described the warning about the third-floor corridor. It felt like a deliberate invitation to curious students. A trap or a test, Sharpclaw agreed. Perhaps both. Investigate cautiously if at all. They discussed strategies for the coming days before signing off. Harry lay back in his bed, listening to the water lapping against the dormitory windows. His first night at Hogwarts had confirmed their suspicions. Dumbledore was still manipulating events, and something dark lurked within the castle walls. But Harry wasn't the ignorant pawn Dumbledore had expected. For years of Goblin training had forged him into something else entirely, a player in his own right, with allies and resources the old wizard couldn't begin to imagine. Tomorrow, the real game would begin. Over the following weeks, Harry established himself as a force to be reckoned with at Hogwarts. In classes, he demonstrated a depth of magical knowledge that surprised his professors. Professor Flitwick nearly fell off his stack of books when Harry performed a perfect levitation charm on his first try. Extraordinary, the tiny professor exclaimed. Your mother had the same gift for charms, Mr. Potter. In Transfiguration, Professor McGonagall watched with barely concealed shock as Harry transformed his match into a needle before anyone else, then proceeded to change it into silver, then gold. That's post-OWL material, Mr. Potter, she said sharply. Where did you learn such advanced transfiguration? My father's journals, Harry replied truthfully. He was particularly interested in metallurgical transformations. McGonagall's stern expression softened slightly at the mention of James Potter. 5 points to Slytherin for exceptional work. Even in potions, where Professor Snape seemed determined to find fault with him, Harry's goblin-trained precision won grudging approval. It seems fame isn't everything, Snape had sneered during their first class, peppering Harry with advanced questions. To his visible surprise, Harry had answered each one correctly, adding, the goblins consider potion-making an essential skill, sir. Their methods focus on precision and ingredient preparation rather than wand work. Snape had stared at him for a long moment before moving on without comment. By the end of class, when Harry produced a perfect boil-cure potion, the professor had merely nodded curtly, high praise, according to the older Slytherins. Between classes, Harry built a network spanning all houses. He studied with Hermione and the Ravenclaws, discussing magical theory at a level that impressed even 7th years. He played wizard chess with Ron and the Gryffindors, deliberately losing the first few games before gradually revealing his goblin-taught strategic skills. With the Hufflepuffs, particularly Susan Bones, niece of the head of magical law enforcement, he discussed the upcoming trial of Sirius Black, carefully planting seeds of doubt about Dumbledore's role in the lack of initial proceedings. Within his own house, Harry maintained a careful balance, friendly with everyone, aligned with no one. Draco Malfoy, initially piqued by Harry's refusal of direct alliance, gradually shifted to a position of respectful rivalry. Your move, Potter, Draco said one evening as they played chess in the common room, a small audience watching their match. Father says the Black Trial is causing waves at the Ministry. Some saying Dumbledore deliberately blocked it back in 81. Harry moved his knight, taking Draco's bishop. Interesting theory. The Wisengamot records certainly show some unusual procedural decisions. My aunt says Dumbledore claimed Black confessed, contributed Susan Bones, who had begun joining inter-house study groups Harry organized. But there's no transcript. Convenient, Harry remarked, watching Draco's reaction. The blond boy studied the chessboard carefully before replying. Father always said Dumbledore plays a deeper game than most realize. The question is, what does he gain from Black being imprisoned without trial? Control, Harry said simply. With my godfather gone, Dumbledore could place me wherever he wanted. The implications hung in the air. Several students exchanged glances, connecting dots Harry had carefully arranged over weeks of subtle conversations. Check, Draco announced, moving his queen. Harry smiled. Interesting move. But predictable. He shifted his rook. Checkmate in 3. Draco stared at the board, then laughed. Goblin tactics. Always thinking several moves ahead. It served me well so far, Harry agreed. Meanwhile, Harry maintained regular communication with Sharpclaw and the Tonks family. Ted sent daily updates on the Black case, which was gathering momentum despite Dumbledore's procedural delays. Andromeda provided political analysis of the shifting alliances in the Wisingamot as word of Harry's Goblin connection spread. Lucius Malfoy has approached us through intermediaries, Sharpclaw reported one night via Mirror. Seeking information on your political positions. Let him wonder, Harry replied. The more unpredictable I appear, the more cautiously they'll all move. Dumbledore, for his part, maintained distance while watching Harry closely. Twice, Harry caught tendrils of legilimency brushing against his mental shields during meals. Rather than blocking completely, he allowed carefully constructed surface thoughts through, curiosity about classes, excitement about magic, normal 11-year-old concerns. He's testing your defenses, Blood Fong said during one mirror call. Showing strength would provoke him. Appearing normal buys you time. Harry agreed, though he wondered how long the facade would hold. Especially after what he discovered about the third-floor corridor. Through careful observation and a few well-placed listening charms, courtesy of his mother's charm notebooks, Harry had pieced together that something valuable was hidden at Hogwarts, something Dumbledore was protecting. References to Nicholas Flamel and a special package from Gringotts Vault 713 led Harry to a startling conclusion. The Philosopher's Stone. Sharpclaw looked genuinely alarmed when Harry reported his findings. That's what Dumbledore's hiding in a school full of children. It fits the evidence, Harry confirmed. And there's more. Fluffy, the three-headed dog guarding the trapdoor, isn't the only protection. Each head of house contributed something, plus Quirrell. Speaking of Quirrell, Sharpclaw interrupted, our investigations have yielded disturbing results. The man spent last year in Albania, where rumors have long placed the wraith of the Dark Lord. Harry frowned. You think Voldemort is possessing him somehow? That would explain my Scar's reaction. Precisely our concern. We've dispatched a specialized team to Hogsmeade. If needed, they can reach the castle within minutes. Harry rubbed his scar thoughtfully. I'll keep monitoring him. But if the stone is really here, and Voldemort is possessing Quirrell, then Dumbledore has created the perfect trap, Sharpclaw finished. Either for the Dark Lord, or for you. October gave way to November, and the date for Sirius Black's trial approached. The Daily Prophet ran increasingly speculative pieces about the case, with Rita Skeeter publishing a scathing exposé questioning why the chief warlock had allowed a pure-blood heir to be imprisoned without trial. Harry, meanwhile, faced a different challenge, his first Quidditch match. Despite his initial plan to avoid extracurriculars that might distract from his mission, his exceptional flying skills had been discovered during their first lesson. When a fellow Slytherin's mishap sent Neville's Remembrall flying, Harry had caught it in a 50-foot dive that left even the hard-to-impress Madame Hooch speechless. Potter, she barked. Where did you learn to fly like that? Natural talent? Harry had offered with an innocent smile. The truth, that Blood Fong had insisted flying was essential for both combat maneuverability and potential escape scenarios, seemed excessive to mention. Now, as November's second Saturday dawned cold and bright, Harry prepared for Slytherin's match against Gryffindor. As the youngest Seeker in a century, he'd faced both awe and resentment from his housemates. Marcus Flint, the team captain, had initially been skeptical until Harry outflew every other Slytherin in tryouts. "Don't screw this up, Potter," Flint growled as they prepared to enter the pitch. "Slytherins won the cup 7 years running." "No pressure," Harry muttered, mounting his Nimbus 2000, a gift from Andromeda that had arrived with a note saying, "Show them all what a black-raised Potter can do." The match began brutally, with Slytherin using tactics that straddled the line between aggressive and illegal. Harry circled above, searching for the snitch while keeping one eye on the Gryffindor seeker, a third-year named McLagan who flew with more confidence than skill. Halfway through the game, with Slytherin leading 60-20, Harry's broom gave a sudden lurch. Then another. It began zigzagging through the air, refusing his control. "Something's wrong with Potter's broom," someone shouted from the stands. Harry clung on, recognizing the signs of magical tampering. Through years of Goblin combat training, he'd learned to remain calm in crisis. He scanned the teacher's stand while wrestling with his broom. Quirrell sat with his eyes fixed on Harry, muttering continuously. But 3 seats away, Dumbledore was also watching intently, one hand slightly raised. 2 jinxes, Harry realized. Canceling each other out. Taking a calculated risk, he deliberately slipped, hanging from the broom by one hand in a way that caused gasps from the crowd. The distraction worked, both Quirrell and Dumbledore's concentration broke momentarily. Harry swung himself back up and regained control just as Hermione, who'd apparently noticed the same thing Harry had, set fire to Snape's robes, creating chaos in the teacher's stand. With his broom back under control, Harry spotted the snitch hovering near the Slytherin goal posts. He accelerated toward it, McLagan belatedly giving chase. In a move that had the crowd roaring, Harry stood on his broomstick, balanced for a crucial second, then dove forward to catch the snitch in mid-air, tumbling to the ground in a controlled roll Bloodfong had drilled into him countless times. "Potter has the snitch. Slytherin wins 210-20, the announcer shouted as the green-clad sections of the stands erupted. Later, in the privacy of an unused classroom, Harry met with Hermione, Ron, and Neville, who had become his closest confidants despite their different houses. "It was Quirrell jinxing your broom," Hermione insisted. "I saw him maintaining eye contact and muttering." "But Dumbledore was doing something too," Harry countered. "I think he was trying to counter the jinx. Or make it look that way," Ron suggested darkly. "Dad's been sending me weird letters lately. Says Dumbledore isn't what he seems." "The Black Trial's tomorrow," Neville added quietly. "Gran says it could change everything if he's innocent." Harry nodded. "Ted, my guardian's husband, says they've got ironclad evidence. Veritaserum testimony from the arresting officers that they never actually checked Black's wand or performed priori incantatem. If Black's innocent, who betrayed your parents?" Hermione asked. "Someone else," Harry said grimly. "Someone who's been free all this time while my godfather rotted in Azkaban." The Daily Prophet's headline the next morning screamed across the Great Hall, "Sirius Black innocent." Peter Pettigrew named true betrayer of Potter's chief warlock. Dumbledore faces questions over denied trial. The article detailed how Veritaserum testimony had revealed Sirius Black was not the Potter's secret keeper as widely believed. Peter Pettigrew, thought murdered by Black, had been the real secret keeper and had framed Black after betraying the Potters to Voldemort. Most damning, evidence suggested Dumbledore had known this as he was the one who cast the Fidelius charm, yet had allowed Black to be imprisoned without trial. The Great Hall buzzed with shocked conversations. At the head table, Dumbledore's face remained impassive, though his customary twinkle was noticeably absent. McGonagall looked pale and shaken, whispering furiously to Professor Sprout. At the Slytherin table, Harry ate his breakfast calmly, ignoring the stares directed his way. Draco Malfoy slid onto the bench beside him. "Well played, Potter," he said quietly. "Father is impressed. The Black Fortune returns to your godfather instead of my mother's line, but the political damage to Dumbledore is worth it." Harry shrugged. "Justice was my only concern. Though I won't pretend I'm sad to see my godfather freed." Will you live with him now? Blaze asked from across the table. He'll need time to recover from Azkaban first, Harry replied. But eventually, yes. The goblin healers are already working with him. The owls brought more than just the prophet that morning. A sleek ministry owl delivered an official-looking letter to Harry. He opened it carefully, scanning its contents before allowing a small smile. What is it? Daphne Greengrass asked. The Wizengamot has scheduled a special session, Harry replied. They're reviewing all decisions made by Dumbledore in his capacity as my magical guardian. Including my original placement with the Dursleys. His housemates exchanged meaningful looks. Though Harry had never directly discussed his treatment by the Muggles, rumors had circulated, carefully planted by Harry himself through conversations with trusted allies. They're going after him systematically, Theodore not observed. First Black, now your guardianship. What's next? Headmastership? One step at a time, Harry said mildly, catching Dumbledore watching him from the head table. He raised his goblet in a small toast, watching as the headmaster's eyes narrowed slightly before returning the gesture. The game continued. As November turned to December, tensions escalated. Dumbledore, under political siege from the fallout of the Black Trial, retreated to Hogwarts, where his authority remained absolute. Harry, meanwhile, continued investigating the Philosopher's Stone, now convinced it was connected to Quirrell and, by extension, Voldemort. During this time, Harry received permission to leave Hogwarts for a weekend to visit his recovering godfather. The reunion at St. Mungo's secure ward was emotional for both of them. Sirius Black, gaunt and hollow-eyed from a decade in Azkaban, broke down in tears at the sight of Harry. You look so much like James, he rasped, embracing Harry tightly. But those eyes, pure lily. I've been wanting to meet you for years, Harry admitted. Ever since the goblins told me you were my godfather. Sirius laughed weakly. Goblins. Never thought I'd owe my life to them. Your father would have loved the irony, Gringotts saving the last black heir. They spent hours talking, with Harry carefully explaining the past 4 years, his rescue from the Dursleys, his goblin training, and the ongoing battle with Dumbledore. I always trusted Albus, Sirius said, shaking his head in disbelief. We all did. To think he knew I wasn't the secret keeper, that he let me rot there. He needed you out of the way, Harry explained. As my godfather, you had legal priority for my guardianship. With you gone, he could place me with the Dursleys and control my life. Sirius's eyes hardened. Well, his plan backfired spectacularly, didn't it? Instead of a malleable, ignorant boy, you're a goblin-trained heir with 8 house votes. He barked a laugh. James would be so proud. Before returning to Hogwarts, Harry visited the Goblins' London complex, where Sharpclaw provided an update on their Flamel investigation. Nicholas Flamel is over 600 years old, sustained by the elixir of life produced by his stone, Sharpclaw explained. Our records show he's maintained excellent relations with Gringotts for centuries. He would never willingly place his stone in such danger. You think Dumbledore took it without permission? Harry asked. Not exactly. We believe Dumbledore convinced Flamel that the stone was in danger and needed protection. But our sources suggest there was never any actual threat until the stone was moved to Hogwarts. Creating a problem to solve, Harry mused. But why? Sharpclaw looked grim. To test you, perhaps. Or to draw out the Dark Lord under controlled conditions. Either way, the stone represents tremendous power and danger. Upon returning to Hogwarts, Harry found a school transformed by Christmas decorations. Most students were preparing to return home for the holidays, but Harry had decided to remain, using the quieter period to investigate the third-floor corridor more thoroughly. On Christmas morning, he awoke to a pile of presents at the foot of his bed. From the Tonks family came books on advanced defensive magic. Bloodfang sent a goblin-crafted silver knife designed to fit into his boot. Sharpclaw's gift was a ledger charm to update automatically with his various account activities. But the most intriguing gift came without a card, a shimmering, fluid-like cloak that rendered the wearer invisible. An invisibility cloak, Harry whispered, examining it carefully. A small note had fallen from its folds. Your father left this in my possession before he died. It is time it was returned to you. Use it well. Harry frowned. The handwriting matched examples of Dumbledore's that he'd studied. But why return such a valuable item now? Was it a peace offering? A manipulation? Or something else entirely? He sent a hair from the cloak to Sharpclaw for analysis via his communication mirror. The goblin promised to investigate its properties thoroughly. That night, with the castle mostly empty, Harry donned the cloak and slipped out to explore. His wanderings led him to an unused classroom containing nothing but an ornate mirror. Golden inscription around its frame read, Erist stra eru oit uber kafru oit anwosi. I show not your face but your heart's desire, Harry translated, approaching cautiously. In the mirror, he saw himself, but not alone. Behind him stood his parents, smiling proudly. Beside them were Sirius, the Tonks family, Sharpclaw, Bloodfawn, and King Gornik. All together, unified. In the image, Harry held up what appeared to be a reformed Wisengamot charter while Dumbledore bowed in acknowledgement of defeat. My heart's desire, Harry murmured. Unity between wizards and goblins. And justice. A noble desire, came Dumbledore's voice from behind him. Harry spun around, cursing himself for not detecting the headmaster's presence. The invisibility cloak lay pooled at his feet, having slipped off when he moved closer to the mirror. Many have wasted away before the mirror of Erist, Dumbledore continued, approaching slowly. Seeing only their deepest, most desperate desires. What do you see, Harry? Harry considered lying, then decided on a partial truth. My family. My parents. People who care about me. Something like genuine sadness crossed Dumbledore's face. As I expected. A natural desire for one who has lost so much. What do you see, Headmaster? Harry countered boldly. Dumbledore's eyebrows rose slightly, perhaps surprised by the direct question. I see myself holding a pair of thick, woolen socks. One can never have enough socks. Harry didn't believe him for a second but nodded as if accepting the obvious lie. The mirror will be moved to a new home tomorrow, Harry, Dumbledore said. I ask that you not go looking for it again. It does not do to dwell on dreams and forget to live. Sound advice, sir, Harry replied neutrally. Though sometimes dreams show us truths we might otherwise miss. Dumbledore studied him thoughtfully. Indeed. You are, not what I expected, Harry. Life rarely meets our expectations, Headmaster. The goblins taught me that. Ah yes, your, unusual guardianship arrangement. Dumbledore's tone remained pleasant, but his eyes had lost their twinkle. A most unprecedented situation. I wonder if you fully understand the political complexities of aligning yourself so closely with the Goblin nation. Harry met his gaze steadily. Better than you might think, sir. I've had excellent teachers in both wizard and goblin politics. I see. Dumbledore paused. And your investigations into the third-floor corridor? Yes, Harry, I am aware of your curiosity. The forbidden is always attractive to young minds. I haven't gone near the corridor, sir, Harry lied smoothly. Though many students wonder why something deadly would be kept in a school full of children. Sometimes, Harry, the greatest dangers must be hidden in plain sight to prevent worse calamities. Dumbledore's voice took on a lecturing tone. The wizard world contains many powerful artifacts that must be protected, even at risk. Like the Philosopher's Stone? Harry asked innocently. Dumbledore's poker face was excellent, but Harry caught the momentary tightening around his eyes. What an interesting speculation. May I ask how you came to such a conclusion? Research, sir. Nicholas Flamel's connection to alchemy is well documented. Harry shrugged. It seemed the logical conclusion given the security measures. Logical indeed, Dumbledore conceded. You have your mother's mind, Harry. Sharp. Incisive. But remember, logic without wisdom can lead to dangerous places. And wisdom without justice is merely rationalized self-interest, Harry countered, quoting a Goblin proverb. Something flashed in Dumbledore's eyes, irritation, perhaps, or grudging respect. It's late, Harry. You should return to your dormitory. We'll speak again soon, I'm sure. As Harry gathered his invisibility cloak, Dumbledore added, one final thought. The path you're walking, between wizard and goblin worlds, has never been traveled before. Consider carefully whose interests you truly serve. Harry paused at the door. I serve justice, Headmaster. For both races. The old wizard's expression turned somber. A noble sentiment. But justice, like the mirror of Erist, often shows us only what we wish to see. The remainder of the school year passed in a complex dance of investigation and counter-movement. Harry continued building his network of allies while monitoring Quirrell's increasingly suspicious behavior. The defense professor grew paler and thinner as the months passed, and his turban seemed to emit a faint, unpleasant odor. Meanwhile, the political landscape outside Hogwarts shifted dramatically. Sirius Black, officially exonerated and gradually recovering under Goblin healing, reclaimed his seat on the Wizengamot. His first act was to call for a full investigation into Dumbledore's actions regarding Harry's placement with the Dursleys. Inside Hogwarts, Harry excelled academically while carefully planning his eventual confrontation with Quirrell. Through his network of friends, he'd pieced together the complete set of protections guarding the stone: Fluffy, Devil's Snare, flying keys, a giant chess set, a troll, a logic puzzle with potions, and finally, whatever Dumbledore himself had contributed. It's almost like an obstacle course designed for first years, Hermione observed during one of their strategy sessions in the library. Each challenge conveniently matched to our specific skills. Ron's chess expertise, Neville nodded. Hermione's logic and plant knowledge. Harry's flying skills and defensive magic. Exactly, Harry agreed. Dumbledore wants me to go after the stone. The question is why? To test you against you-know-who, Ron suggested. If Quirrell is really possessed. Then Dumbledore's using me as bait, Harry finished grimly. Or as a weapon. Their conversation was interrupted by the arrival of Draco Malfoy, who had gradually shifted from rival to reluctant ally as the year progressed. Potter, he said without preamble, Quirrell's on the move. Just overheard Snape warning McGonagall that he's going after it tonight. Harry exchanged glances with his friends. Time to implement the plan. The plan, carefully developed over months with input from Sharpclaw and Bloodfang via the communication mirrors, involved far more than just stopping Quirrell. It was designed to expose Dumbledore's manipulations while neutralizing the Voldemort threat, at least temporarily. First, Harry dispatched Hermione and Neville to alert Professor McGonagall about Quirrell's intentions, knowing she would likely dismiss their concerns but creating an official record that they had tried proper channels. Next, Ron was tasked with creating a strategic diversion on the second floor, involving Fred and George's fireworks and Peeves the poltergeist, to draw staff attention away from the third floor. Meanwhile, Harry contacted Sharpclaw, activating the Goblin security team stationed in Hogsmeade. The elite warriors, specialists in dealing with dark artifacts, would enter through a secret passage Harry had discovered on the Marauders map, another family heirloom Sirius had told him about and that the Weasley twins had subsequently provided. When night fell, the plan unfolded with military precision. As expected, McGonagall dismissed Hermione and Neville's warnings. Ron's diversion successfully occupied most of the staff. Harry, under his invisibility cloak, made his way to the third-floor corridor where he found Fluffy already asleep. Someone had beat him there. Harry slipped through the trapdoor, navigating each challenge with ease thanks to his extensive preparation. The Devil's Snare withered before a controlled magical fire. The flying keys posed no challenge to his seeker reflexes. The chess game fell to strategies Bloodfang had drilled into him for years. An unconscious troll indicated Quirrell had indeed preceded him. The potion riddle yielded to logic. Finally, Harry reached the last chamber, where he found not only Quirrell but the Mirror of Erist. "I wondered if you would come, Potter," Quirrell said, turning to face him. His voice was different, no stutter, just cold calculation. Always interfering, just like Dumbledore. "Professor," Harry acknowledged calmly, subtly pressing a rune on his wristband that signaled the Goblin team. "Or should I address Lord Voldemort directly?" Quirrell's face contorted with rage. "How dare you, let me speak to him," came a high, cold voice from seemingly nowhere. Face to face. To Harry's disgust, Quirrell began unwrapping his turban, revealing a terrifying sight on the back of his head, a chalk-white face with glaring red eyes and slits for nostrils. "Harry Potter," Voldemort whispered. "See what I've become. Shadow and vapor. Form only when I can share another's body. But once I have the elixir of life, I will be reborn." That was Dumbledore's plan all along, Harry realized aloud. "Draw you out with the stone." Voldemort laughed, a chilling sound. "The old fool thinks himself clever. He expected you to play the hero, to face me alone. Your mother died to save you, Harry. A powerful protection. Dumbledore hoped to test it. Using me as a weapon," Harry said, anger flaring. "Using us both," Voldemort corrected. "But we need not be pawns. Help me get the stone. Join me, and I can give you what Dumbledore never would, the truth about your heritage. About the prophecy that binds us." Harry's mind raced. A prophecy? That explained much about Dumbledore's manipulations. But before he could respond, Voldemort continued. "I can see the stone in the mirror, but I cannot obtain it. Use the boy," he commanded Quirrell, who grabbed Harry and forced him before the Mirror of Erist. In the reflection, Harry saw himself finding the stone, putting it in his pocket. To his shock, he felt the real stone drop into his actual pocket. The mirror had somehow given it to him. "What do you see?" Quirrell demanded. "I see myself shaking hands with Dumbledore," Harry lied smoothly. "I've won the House Cup." "He lies." Voldemort screeched. "Take the stone from him." As Quirrell lunged, Harry sidestepped using a Goblin combat move, drawing his silver knife in one fluid motion. But when Quirrell grabbed his arm, something unexpected happened. The professor's skin blistered and burned at the contact. "The protection!" Voldemort howled. "Seize him!" Harry, realizing his touch was lethal to Quirrell, deliberately pressed his hands to the professor's face. Quirrell screamed in agony as his skin cracked and turned to ash. But as Voldemort's spirit tore free from the disintegrating body, Harry's scar exploded with pain so intense he nearly lost consciousness. Through the haze of pain, Harry was dimly aware of figures entering the chamber, the Goblin security team, led by a battle-scarred warrior. They surrounded the fleeing spirit, casting containment spells in gobbledygook. The spirit shrieked in frustration as Goblin magic, different from wizard magic and unknown to Voldemort, temporarily trapped it in a crystal vessel. "Herr Potter," the lead Goblin said urgently, helping Harry to his feet. "The containment won't hold long. We must depart." Harry, clutching the Philosopher's Stone, nodded weakly. "What about Dumbledore?" "Our sensors detected his return to the castle. He approaches." "Perfect timing," Harry said bitterly. Just as Voldemort was defeated. Almost like he was waiting. They hurried from the chamber, bypassing the challenges through Goblin magic. As they reached the room with the trapdoor, they heard voices approaching, Dumbledore and several professors. "Go," Harry told the Goblins. "Take the spirit container and the stone to Gringotts. I'll deal with Dumbledore." The Goblins hesitated, then nodded. "King Gornik awaits your report," the leader said before they disappeared through a hidden passage. Moments later, Dumbledore burst into the room, followed by McGonagall and Snape. The headmaster's expression cycled rapidly from determination to shock to calculation as he took in the scene, Harry standing alone, singed but alive, with no sign of Quirrell. "Harry," Dumbledore said, somehow managing to sound both relieved and disappointed. "What happened here?" Harry met his gaze steadily. "Exactly what you planned, headmaster. I faced Voldemort. I survived. Again." McGonagall gasped. "You know who?" "Here. Albus, what is he talking about?" Dumbledore's face grew grave. "Perhaps we should continue this discussion in the hospital wing. You appear injured, Harry." "Actually," Harry replied, "I believe this discussion belongs before the full Board of Governors. Using students as bait for Voldemort seems like something they should be informed about." Snape's eyebrows shot up, a flicker of what might have been appreciation crossing his sallow face. Dumbledore sighed heavily. "You misunderstand, Harry. I would never knowingly endanger, save it," Harry interrupted, surprising everyone including himself with his boldness. "I have Quirrell's confession. Voldemort knew exactly what you were doing. The only question is why. What prophecy was he talking about?" A tense silence fell. Dumbledore's eyes had lost all twinkle, replaced by a calculating hardness Harry had glimpsed only rarely. "This is not the place, Harry. There are matters beyond your understanding." "No," Harry said firmly. "No more secrets. No more manipulations. You've used me as a pawn for the last time, headmaster." He started toward the door, then paused. "By the way, the Philosopher's Stone is safely beyond your reach. Nicholas Flamel will be interested to learn how you used his creation as bait in a school full of children." Dumbledore's mask slipped completely for an instant, revealing genuine alarm. "Harry, you don't understand the danger." "I understand perfectly," Harry replied. "The question is, when will you understand that I'm not your weapon anymore?" With that parting shot, he left the chamber, leaving behind a stunned McGonagall, an inscrutable Snape, and a Dumbledore whose carefully constructed plans lay in ruins. The final days of term passed in a whirlwind. News of the confrontation beneath the school spread despite official attempts to suppress it. Harry's version reached the student body first through his network of allies, forcing Dumbledore to acknowledge that Voldemort had indeed possessed Quirrell. The official story, however, claimed that Dumbledore himself had saved Harry at the last moment, a fiction Harry didn't bother contradicting publicly. Let Dumbledore have his face-saving narrative. The truth had already reached those who mattered. In the hospital wing, where Harry spent 2 days recovering, he received a steady stream of visitors. Hermione, Ron, and Neville came bearing sweets and news of the school's reactions. The Weasley twins brought illicit butterbeer to celebrate, completely destroying Dumbledore's scheming. More surprising visitors included Draco Malfoy, who arrived with a formal letter from his father. "He's impressed," Draco admitted, looking somewhat put out. "Says you've accomplished more against both Dumbledore and the Dark Lord at 11 than most adult wizards would in a lifetime." Harry scanned the letter, noting the carefully worded invitation to summer at Malfoy Manor. "Politics make strange bedfellows," he remarked, setting it aside to discuss with Sharpclaw later. Even Professor Snape made a brief, awkward appearance, ostensibly to check Harry's recovery from magical exhaustion. "Your mother," he said abruptly, after verifying Harry's condition, "would have approached the situation with more subtlety. But your father would have approved of your directness." Before Harry could respond to this unexpected almost compliment, Snape swept from the room, robes billowing dramatically. The most significant visitor, however, was Sirius Black. Fully recovered and dressed in elegant robes befitting the lord of an ancient and noble house, he entered the hospital wing like he owned it. "Heard my godson kicked Voldemort's incorporeal arse," he announced, dropping into the chair beside Harry's bed. "The goblins are positively gloating. Something about wizard spirit containment being a breakthrough in cross-species magical cooperation." Harry grinned. "How long will it hold him?" "Not permanently," Sirius admitted. "But long enough to analyze his magical signature." They're already using it to detect and cleanse similar dark magic from suspected items. His expression grew serious. We need to talk about what happens next, pup. The Wizengamot has officially revoked Dumbledore's guardianship. I'm your legal guardian now, which means you have options. Like not returning to Hogwarts? Harry asked. Sirius nodded. Beau's batons would take you in a heartbeat. Or private tutoring. The goblins have offered to continue your education regardless. Harry considered it carefully. Leaving would be simpler. Safer, perhaps. But also a retreat. I need to stay, he decided finally. Dumbledore's weakened, but not defeated. And there's still the prophecy to uncover. Sirius squeezed his shoulder approvingly. James would say the same. Never back down from a fight. Besides, Harry added with a grin, I've got unfinished business with the Slytherin Quidditch team. We're one match away from the cup. Later, after Sirius left to prepare Black Manor for Harry's summer residence, Dumbledore made his inevitable appearance. The headmaster looked older somehow, the twinkle in his eyes dimmed. Harry, he began gently. I believe we need to clear the air between us. Harry regarded him warily. I'm listening. I have made mistakes, Dumbledore admitted, surprising Harry with his directness. In my concern for the greater good, I sometimes lose sight of individual welfare. Particularly yours. That's one way to put it, Harry replied dryly. Dumbledore sighed. The prophecy Voldemort mentioned, it is real. Made before your birth, it connects your fate with his. I believed, still believe, that protecting you from this burden was the right choice for a child. Except I haven't been a normal child since the night he gave me this scar, Harry countered. And keeping me ignorant didn't protect me, it endangered me. Perhaps, Dumbledore conceded. But consider, Harry, knowledge is itself a burden. There are things about Voldemort, about your connection to him, that would disturb even the most prepared mind. Harry studied the old wizard, seeing for the first time not just the manipulator but the strategist who had dedicated his life to fighting dark wizards. Dumbledore believed in his own righteousness, that was what made him so dangerous. I won't be your pawn anymore, Harry said finally. But I'm not your enemy either, unless you make me one. Voldemort is the real threat. I'm willing to work together against him, but as equals, not as general and soldier. Dumbledore's eyebrows rose. Equals. You are remarkably advanced for your age, Harry, but, politically, we're already equals, Harry interrupted. 8 Wizengamot votes to your 1. Magically, I'm still learning, but I have resources you don't, including Goblin Alliance. He leaned forward. But most importantly, I have something you lost long ago, Headmaster, perspective outside your own certainty. You've been playing this game so long you can't see new approaches. For a long moment, Dumbledore was silent, genuine surprise evident in his expression. When he finally spoke, his voice carried a hint of respect that hadn't been there before. Perhaps you're right, Harry. Age brings wisdom but also, rigidity. He rose slowly. We will speak again next term. I believe we both have much to consider over the summer. At the door, he paused. The Philosopher's Stone, what became of it? Harry smiled thinly. Returned to its rightful owner with goblins as witnesses. Nicholas Flamel was quite interested to learn how it had been used without his knowledge. Dumbledore winced slightly but nodded. As I expected. A formidable move in our game. After he left, Harry sank back against his pillows, mentally exhausted. The confrontation had gone better than expected. Dumbledore hadn't tried legilimency once, suggesting he now recognized the futility of such attempts against Harry's shields. More importantly, the power dynamic had shifted, no longer headmaster and student, but two political entities negotiating. The end-of-year feast brought one final surprise. Slytherin had won the House Cup, largely due to Harry's Quidditch points. As Dumbledore announced the final standings, Harry watched him carefully, half expecting last-minute points to swing the victory elsewhere. But the headmaster simply awarded the cup to Slytherin with a gracious speech about house unity and the value of healthy competition. Perhaps their hospital wing conversation had affected him after all. As the Hogwarts Express carried them back to London the next day, Harry sat with friends from all four houses, Ron and Neville from Gryffindor, Hermione from Ravenclaw, Susan Bones from Hufflepuff, and Blaise Zabini representing Slytherin. Their compartment symbolized what he'd accomplished in his first year, bridges between traditionally divided houses. "What will you do this summer, Harry?" Hermione asked as they neared London. Harry smiled. "First, settle into Black Manor with Sirius. Then continue my goblin training. Blood Fong says my blade work still needs polish." "Mental," Ron said, shaking his head in amazement. "Most kids our age are just thinking about Quidditch and sweets." "Well, most kids don't have psychotic Dark Lords and manipulative headmasters gunning for them," Harry replied with a laugh. "But I'll make time for Quidditch too, don't worry." As the train pulled into King's Cross, Harry spotted a welcome committee on the platform: Sirius, the Tonks family, and even Sharpclaw in wizard-passing robes. His family, unconventional as it was. "Ready for year 2? Blaise asked as they prepared to disembark. Harry grinned, watching Dumbledore speaking with ministry officials further down the platform. The old wizard glanced his way briefly, inclining his head in the smallest acknowledgement. "More than ready," Harry replied. "The game's just beginning." Chapter 3, Halls of Power. Summer at Black Manor flew by in a blur of training, politics, and the closest thing to normal family life Harry had ever experienced. Sirius, fully recovered from Azkaban thanks to goblin healers and mind magic specialists, turned out to be exactly what Harry needed: part guardian, part co-conspirator. "Catch!" Sirius called, hurling a training blade toward Harry across the manor's warded dueling chamber. Harry snatched it from the air without breaking stride, transitioning smoothly into a goblin defensive stance as Sirius launched his attack. Their blades clashed, sending sparks flying. "Not bad," Sirius grunted, pressing forward. "But predictable." "Oh yeah." Harry dropped suddenly, sweeping Sirius's legs while simultaneously casting a wandless sticking charm on his godfather's boots. Sirius toppled backward with a yelp, his feet momentarily glued to the floor. He hit the mat with a thud, laughing as Harry's training blade touched his throat. "Using magic in a blade duel?" Sirius asked, echoing Bloodfang's frequent complaint. "Dishonorable." Harry helped him up, grinning. "Bloodfang says the same thing, right before he throws pocket sand in my eyes." "Smart goblin." Sirius ruffled Harry's hair, now grown past his shoulders and tied back with the gold and silver threads that marked his status among the Goblin Nation. "Your father would have loved this, you know. James always said rules were for people with no imagination." Such moments had become precious to Harry, these casual mentions of his parents that painted them as real people, not just martyrs. Between dueling sessions with Sirius, political lessons with Andromeda, and his continued training at Gringotts, the summer had shaped him further. The Prophet's headlines tracked their political progress: Dumbledore censured by Wizengamot, Chief Warlock retains position by single vote margin, Potter-Black Alliance proposes Goblin Treaty revisions, Ragnarok calls for new era of Wizard-Goblin relations, Malfoy faction sides with Potter on magical guardian reform, unprecedented cross-factional support for Bill. Even the Malfoys had made overtures of alliance, inviting Harry to a midsummer gala where he'd navigated the complex social waters of Pure Blood Society with Andromeda's coaching and Sirius's irreverent whispered commentary. Now, with just 2 weeks until his return to Hogwarts, Harry sat in Sharpclaw's office reviewing their progress and planning for the year ahead. "The containment of the Dark Lord's spirit fragment has yielded significant insights," Sharpclaw explained, pushing forward a crystal vial containing swirling black mist, a copy of the memory from when they'd captured Voldemort's essence. "Our analysis confirms our worst fears. He created multiple anchors to prevent his complete death." "Horcruxes," Harry said grimly. The goblins had educated him about the darkest of soul magics after extracting the fragment from his scar. Any idea how many? Based on the magical resonance patterns, at least 5, possibly 7 including the one that possessed Quirrell and the one we removed from your scar. Harry rubbed his now faded lightning bolt scar thoughtfully. And the search for them? Ongoing. We've developed detection methods based on the captured essence. Sharpclaw looked unusually pleased. In fact, we've located one already, in the ancestral home of the Black family. Grimmauld Place? Harry asked, surprised. Sirius hasn't even been there since his release. Says it's a nightmare of dark magic and worse memories. Nevertheless, our detectors indicate a Horcrux signature there. With Lord Black's permission, we'd like to send a team to recover it. Harry nodded. I'll speak with him tonight. What about the diary Lucius Malfoy has been maneuvering to plant at Hogwarts? This had been a shocking discovery. During the Midsummer Gala at Malfoy Manor, Harry had noticed Lucius behaving oddly, sequestering himself with a small black book that radiated dark magic detectable even to Harry's trained senses. Subsequent investigation by the Goblin's network of informants revealed Lucius planned to slip the book to a Hogwarts student, likely targeting the Weasleys due to Arthur's recent support of Muggle protection legislation. Sharpclaw bared his teeth in what passed for a goblin smile. We've arranged for an inspection of Malfoy Manor's wards next week. Standard procedure for all Wizengamot members following the recent security legislation Lord Black sponsored. Harry grinned. Which Lucius voted for to curry favor with our faction. Brilliant. The inspection team will include our best cursebreakers and Horcrux detection specialists. If the diary is there, we'll find it. And if Lucius has already moved it? Sharpclaw's expression darkened. Then we implement contingency protocols at Hogwarts. King Gornek has authorized a permanent security detail for you this year, disguised as additional Gringotts guards for the Hogsmeade branch. Harry raised an eyebrow. Won't Dumbledore notice? Undoubtedly. But under the revised Treaty of 1612 that your godfather helped push through last month, he cannot legally prevent Goblin guards from protecting a recognized Goblin ally within 3 miles of a Gringotts location. And Hogsmeade has a branch, Harry concluded. Very clever. Their meeting concluded with a review of Harry's vaults and investments, which had grown substantially under Sharpclaw's management. The recovery of stolen funds from Dumbledore had been largely successful, though the old wizard had managed to protect some assets through complex legal maneuvers. As Harry prepared to leave, Sharpclaw handed him a small golden key. Your birthday gift from King Gornek. It opens a special vault containing goblin-made armor sized for you. Traditional garb for a goblin friend entering his 2nd year of warrior training. Harry accepted the key reverently. Please convey my deepest thanks to His Majesty. I'm honored. Sharpclaw nodded approvingly at the formal response. You've learned our ways well, Heir Potter Black. Few wizards would show such respect. Few wizards have had my education, Harry replied with a smile. The platform for the Hogwarts Express buzzed with activity as Harry arrived with Sirius and Andromeda. Unlike the previous year, Harry made no attempt to avoid notice. His arrival was calculated for maximum political impact. Sirius Black, lord of his house, on one side, Andromeda Tonks, his legal proxy for the Black Wizengamot seat, on the other, and 4 goblin guards in formal armor creating a perimeter around them. Subtle, Sirius muttered with a grin as whispers spread across the platform. I think there might be 3 people in Wales who haven't noticed your arrival yet. Harry shrugged. The game changed after last year. Dumbledore knows what he's dealing with now. No point pretending otherwise. They made their way toward the train, stopping occasionally to greet allies. The Greengrasses nodded respectfully, Lord Greengrass engaging Sirius in brief conversation about upcoming Wizengamot votes. The Zabinis exchanged pleasantries, Blaze's mother making a point of mentioning her neutrality in all matters, which everyone understood meant she was waiting to see who would offer the best terms. The Weasleys arrived in their usual chaotic fashion, but with a notable difference. Arthur Weasley immediately approached Harry and Sirius, extending his hand. "Lord Black, Heir Potter Black," he said formally. "House Weasley wishes to express its gratitude for your assistance in recovering misappropriated ministry funds. The educational trust you've established for our children is more generosity than we expected." This had been Harry's idea. Upon discovering Dumbledore had been siphoning ministry educational funds to buy the Weasleys' loyalty, Harry had arranged for the stolen money to be returned directly to the family as a legitimate scholarship program administered by goblins. "The pleasure is ours, Mr. Weasley," Harry replied. "Merit should determine educational opportunity, not financial constraints." Arthur looked momentarily surprised at such a mature sentiment from a 12-year-old, then smiled warmly. "Well said. Ron's been talking about you all summer, you know. I think my son has good taste in friends." "Speaking of Ron," Sirius interjected with a mischievous grin, "we have a small gift for him." "Where is he?" Arthur called Ron over from where he'd been chatting with the twins. The lanky redhead approached somewhat nervously, eyeing the goblin guards with apprehension. "Hey, Harry," he said. "Blimey, you travel with more security than the minister these days." Harry laughed. Occupational hazard of annoying both Voldemort and Dumbledore in the same year. "Ron, this is my godfather, Sirius Black." Sirius extended a hand. "Pleasure to meet you properly, Ron. Harry tells me you're quite the chess master and a loyal friend. Both qualities I admire." He reached into his robes and pulled out a small package. A token of appreciation for standing by Harry last year. Ron unwrapped it hesitantly, then gasped. Inside was a professional-quality wizard chess set made from marble and obsidian, each piece intricately carved. "This is, bloody hell, this is a Grandmaster set!" Ron exclaimed. "These cost a fortune." "Language, Ronald." Mrs. Weasley called from nearby, but she was smiling. "Consider it an investment in future strategy sessions," Harry said. "We've got another year of Dumbledore's chess game ahead of us." The train whistle blew, signaling 5 minutes until departure. Harry exchanged quick goodbyes with Sirius and Andromeda, the latter pressing a charmed communication mirror into his hands. "Daily check-ins," she reminded him. "And be careful about the diary if our Malfoy operation fails. According to the old texts, Horcruxes can possess their handlers." Harry nodded, tucking the mirror into an inside pocket. "I've got the containment box Sharpclaw provided. Anything remotely suspicious gets locked away and sent to Gringotts immediately." Sirius pulled him into a quick, fierce hug. "Show them what a Potterblack can do, pup. But try not to get into a life-or-death situation until at least October this year, all right? For my heart's sake." "No promises," Harry replied with a grin. As he boarded the train, Harry noticed a small girl with flaming red hair staring at him with wide eyes from beside Mrs. Weasley. Ron's younger sister, he presumed, starting her first year at Hogwarts. He offered a friendly wave, causing her to blush furiously and duck behind her mother. Finding a compartment proved easier than expected, his friends had saved him one in the middle of the train. Hermione had already changed into her robes, a stack of books beside her. Neville was showing Ron a strange plant that appeared to be singing softly. Blaise Zabini sat in one corner, reading what appeared to be an Italian financial newspaper. "There he is," Ron announced as Harry entered. "The boy who lived to give heart attacks to Dark Lords." "That hyphenation is getting out of hand," Harry replied dryly, stowing his trunk. Hedwig, already in her cage on the luggage rack, hooted in greeting. Hermione immediately launched into a summary of her summer research. "I've been studying Goblin treaties after you mentioned the revised 1612 agreement. The implications for magical creature rights are fascinating." "Did you know?" "Breathe, Hermione," Neville interjected with newfound confidence. "Let Harry sit down before the lecture starts." Everyone laughed, including Hermione, who mock-glared at Neville. "Someone has developed a backbone over summer." "Gran says it's about time," Neville replied with a small smile. After what happened last year, well, she's actually proud of me for once. The compartment door slid open to reveal Draco Malfoy, flanked as usual by Crabbe and Goyle. Unlike last year, however, his posture wasn't confrontational but cautiously neutral. "Potter," he acknowledged with a slight nod. "A word in private?" Harry assessed him for a moment, then nodded. "I'll be right back," he told his friends, stepping into the corridor. Once they'd moved a few paces away, Draco spoke in a low voice. "Father wanted me to warn you. There's been a change of plans regarding a certain item. He's no longer in possession of it." Harry felt a chill. The diary had already been planted. When? Diagon Alley, last week. Flourish and blots during the Lockhart signing. Draco looked uncomfortable. The Weasley girl. Father slipped it into her cauldron during a confrontation with her father. Harry controlled his expression carefully. "I see. And your father wants me to know this why?" Draco shifted slightly. "Political realignment. Your alliance is gaining power. Father recognizes which way the wind is blowing. So he creates a problem, then warns me about it to curry favor," Harry translated flatly. "Politics," Draco replied with a shrug. "Besides, Father didn't know what it was exactly. Only that the Dark Lord gave it to him for safekeeping years ago, with instructions to return it to Hogwarts if certain conditions were met." Harry nodded slowly. "Tell your father I appreciate the warning. And that we'll discuss appropriate compensation for this information after the situation is resolved." Draco seemed satisfied with this response. "One more thing. The new defense professor, Lockhart. Father says he's Dumbledore's latest puppet. Completely incompetent but with a direct line to the headmaster." "Thanks for the heads up," Harry said. Political enemy or not, information was information. As Draco returned to his compartment, Harry ducked into an empty one and immediately pulled out his communication mirror. "Sharp claw," he said urgently. The goblin's face appeared. "Air Potter Black. Problems already? The diary's been planted. Lucius gave it to Ginny Weasley last week in Diagon Alley." Harry quickly explained what he'd learned. Sharpclaw's expression darkened. "This complicates matters. We cannot simply take it from the girl without explanation. And if she's been writing in it. The possession may have already begun," Harry finished grimly. "We need a strategy. I'll consult with the security team and King Gornick. In the meantime, monitor the girl but do not approach the Horcrux directly. Even with your training, it could be dangerous to you specifically, given your connection to the Dark Lord." Harry agreed and ended the call, rejoining his friends with a carefully neutral expression. The problem of the diary would require delicate handling. He couldn't simply accuse Ron's sister of possessing a dark artifact on her first day. The remainder of the journey passed with catching up and planning for the new term. Harry was particularly interested in Neville's summer herbology projects and Hermione's research into magical genealogy. "I've been tracing magical family trees," she explained excitedly. "Did you know many so-called Muggle-born witches and wizards actually descend from Squiblines? I think I'm related to the Dagworth Grangers from 6 generations back." "That would explain your potions aptitude," Harry noted. "Hector Dagworth Granger was a brilliant potioneer." "How do you know these things?" Ron asked, shaking his head. "I've lived in the wizarding world my whole life and half the stuff you mention I've never heard of." Harry grinned. "For years of Goblin tutors with access to the oldest magical archives in Britain. They believe knowledge is as valuable as gold." As the train approached Hogsmeade, they changed into their school robes. Harry noticed his friends eyeing the subtle changes to his Slytherin uniform, silver threading that incorporated goblin runes of protection, and a custom-made wand holster of dragon hide bearing the combined Potterblack crest. "Expecting trouble this year?" Blaise asked casually, nodding toward the holster. "Just being prepared," Harry replied. Last year taught me that Hogwarts isn't as safe as advertised. The welcome feast began with the traditional sorting ceremony. Harry watched carefully as the first years were called up one by one. Luna Lovegood, a dreamy-eyed blonde, went to Ravenclaw. Colin Creevey, an excitable boy with a camera, became a Gryffindor. When Weasley, Ginevra, was called, Harry paid particular attention. The small redhead he'd noticed on the platform approached the stool nervously. The hat took longer with her than it had with the other Weasleys, nearly a full minute of apparent deliberation before finally calling out, Gryffindor. Harry applauded with everyone else, but his eyes narrowed slightly. Something had seemed off about the girl's demeanor, a flatness to her expression when she wasn't actively speaking or being observed. He made a mental note to monitor her behavior carefully in the coming days. Dumbledore rose for his welcome speech, his eyes briefly meeting Harry's across the hall. The headmaster looked older somehow, the political battles of summer having taken their toll. Nevertheless, his voice carried its usual cheerful authority. Welcome to another year at Hogwarts. Before we begin our magnificent feast, I would like to introduce our new defense against the dark arts teacher, Professor Gilderoy Lockhart. A handsome wizard with wavy golden hair and a dazzling smile stood up, bowing dramatically as many of the female students, and some of the staff, applauded enthusiastically. Harry assessed him skeptically, noting the practiced nature of his smile and the way his eyes constantly scanned the crowd for reactions. As a reminder, Dumbledore continued, the Forbidden Forest remains, as its name suggests, forbidden. Mr. Filch has asked me to remind you that magic is not permitted in the corridors between classes, and that the list of banned items has expanded to include fanged frisbees and ever-bashing boomerangs. He paused, his expression becoming more serious. Finally, I must acknowledge the increased security measures some of you may have noticed. In addition to our standard protective enchantments, Gringotts Bank has stationed additional guards in Hogsmeade Village. They may occasionally patrol the outer grounds of Hogwarts under treaty provisions. Whispers immediately broke out across the hall. Goblin guards at Hogwarts was unprecedented. Dumbledore raised a hand for silence. This arrangement reflects our ongoing cooperation with the Goblin Nation and should not be cause for alarm. The guards are here primarily to protect certain individuals and will not interfere with school operations. Everyone knew exactly which certain individuals he meant. Heads turned toward Harry, who maintained a deliberately neutral expression. Now, Dumbledore concluded, his tone lightening, let the feast begin. Food appeared on the golden plates, and the great hall filled with the sounds of conversation and clinking utensils. At the Slytherin table, Harry found himself the center of attention. Goblin guards, Potter? Marcus Flint asked, eyebrows raised. Isn't that a bit excessive even for you? Harry shrugged. After facing Voldemort last year, it seemed prudent. Besides, it's less about protection and more about politics. How so? Asked Daphne Greengrass, always quick to spot political maneuvering. Having goblins at Hogwarts normalizes their presence in wizard spaces, Harry explained. It's a small step toward the treaty revisions we're pushing through the Wizengamot. Theodore not leaned forward. Father says your Goblin alliance is disrupting centuries of tradition. He's not pleased. Change often displaces the comfortable, Harry replied evenly. The question is whether the change improves things for the majority. Spoken like a true politician, Blaise observed with a slight smile. You'll be running for minister before we graduate. Harry laughed. Minister for Magic reports to the Wizengamot. I'd rather hold the votes than the office. As the feast progressed, Harry noticed Professor Snape watching him with an unreadable expression. Their relationship had evolved into something complex since the previous year's events. Snape still showed no particular fondness for Harry, but a grudging respect had developed, especially after Harry had arranged for certain memories of Lily Potter to be copied from Sirius's mind and presented to the potions master as a peace offering. When the feast concluded, the prefects led the first years to their dormitories. Harry remained behind, catching Dumbledore's eye and giving a small nod toward the antechamber off the Great Hall. The headmaster returned the nod almost imperceptibly. Minutes later, they stood facing each other in the small room where first years traditionally waited before sorting. "Mr. Potter," Dumbledore acknowledged, his tone measured. "I trust your summer was productive." "Extremely," Harry replied. "And yours, headmaster?" The Wisengamot censure must have been challenging. A flicker of something, annoyance. "Respect?" crossed Dumbledore's face. "Politics has never been my preferred battleground, though necessity often dictates our arenas." "Indeed." Harry moved to business. "I wanted to discuss two matters before term properly begins. First, the security arrangements. I assume you've been briefed on the Goblin Guard's parameters?" Director Ragnarok was most thorough, Dumbledore confirmed. "They are limited to the outer grounds unless specifically summoned inside by you in an emergency." A reasonable compromise, I felt. "Thank you for accommodating it." Harry paused. "The second matter is more delicate. A dark artifact may have found its way into Hogwarts, specifically, into the possession of a first-year student." Dumbledore's eyebrows rose slightly. "And you know this how?" "Sources I'm not at liberty to reveal," Harry replied. "But the information is reliable. The artifact is connected to Voldemort and potentially dangerous to the entire school. Yet you bring this to me rather than handling it through your goblin allies," Dumbledore observed. "Interesting." Harry met his gaze steadily. "Despite our differences, I recognize your expertise with dark magic. And this situation requires discretion to avoid causing panic. The student may already be under the artifact's influence without knowing it." Dumbledore studied him for a long moment. "What is this artifact?" "A diary. Unremarkable in appearance, but containing a fragment of Voldemort himself. Capable of possession." The headmaster's expression shifted to genuine concern. "A Horcrux? At Hogwarts?" Harry nodded, unsurprised that Dumbledore recognized the term immediately. "The goblins have developed methods for containing and destroying such objects, but extraction from an unwitting carrier requires delicacy." "Who is the student?" Harry hesitated. "I'd prefer to handle the identification and retrieval myself, to minimize trauma. The goblins have provided specialized equipment." Dumbledore looked like he wanted to object but instead nodded slowly. "Very well. But I expect to be informed immediately once you've secured the object. Horcruxes are extraordinarily dangerous, Harry, even to someone with your unique training." "Agreed." Harry turned to leave, then paused. "One last thing, headmaster. Last year, Voldemort mentioned a prophecy connecting us. I believe it's time you shared it with me." Dumbledore sighed heavily. "You are still very young, Harry." "I faced him twice before turning 12, Harry countered. "Age seems irrelevant at this point." "Perhaps after the matter of the diary is resolved," Dumbledore suggested. "One crisis at a time, wouldn't you agree?" Harry recognized the deflection but decided not to push further, yet. "As you wish, headmaster. But delay doesn't change the inevitable. I will know the prophecy before the year ends, with or without your cooperation." He left Dumbledore looking troubled, a small victory in their ongoing chess match. For now, Harry needed to focus on the more immediate threat of the Horcrux diary. Ginny Weasley's flat expression at the sorting troubled him. If the diary had already begun influencing her, time was of the essence. Classes began the next morning with herbology alongside the Ravenclaws. Professor Sprout led them to Greenhouse 3, which housed more dangerous plants than they'd worked with previously. Today's lesson focused on mandrakes, ugly, root-like plants whose cry could kill when fully grown. Harry partnered with Neville, whose natural affinity for plants made him an ideal collaborator. As they worked to repot the baby mandrakes, whose cries would only knock someone out for several hours, Harry quietly filled him in on the diary situation. "So you need to get close to Ginny without alarming her or triggering the diary's defenses," Neville summarized, expertly handling their mandrake. "That won't be easy." First years tend to stick together, and older students approaching them look suspicious. Exactly, Harry agreed. I was hoping your Gryffindor connection might help. Could you casually observe her behavior? Note if she's writing in a small black diary or seems unusually withdrawn. Neville nodded. I can do that. Maybe suggest Ron invite her to study with us sometimes. Make it seem like we're just being nice to his sister. Perfect, Harry said, impressed by Neville's strategic thinking. The shy, uncertain boy from the previous year had grown considerably in confidence. Their next class was Defense Against the Dark Arts with the Gryffindors. Professor Lockhart's classroom was decorated with portraits of himself in various heroic poses, all winking and flashing dazzling smiles. The man himself swept in wearing turquoise robes, his golden hair perfectly coiffed. Gilderoy Lockhart, he announced grandly, Order of Merlin, 3rd class, honorary member of the Dark Force Defense League, and 5-time winner of Witch Weekly's Most Charming Smile Award, but I don't talk about that. Harry exchanged incredulous looks with Blaise, who rolled his eyes dramatically. Lockhart began by distributing a quiz, all 54 questions pertaining to himself, ranging from, what is Gilderoy Lockhart's favorite color, to, what would be Gilderoy Lockhart's ideal birthday gift. Harry stared at the parchment in disbelief. Behind him, he heard Ron mutter, is this bloke serious? When the quiz papers were collected, Lockhart flipped through them, tutaying in disappointment. Hardly anyone remembered my favorite color is lilac. I clearly stated in Year with a Yeti. He continued critiquing their answers until reaching Harry's paper, which he stared at with a frown. Mr. Potter, you've written only one sentence on your quiz. I felt it summed up my response adequately, Professor, Harry replied politely. Lockhart cleared his throat uncomfortably. This quiz contains zero content relevant to defending against dark magic and suggests a concerning prioritization of celebrity over education. Well, that's. Several students snickered. Lockhart's smile faltered briefly before he rallied, moving quickly to the practical portion of the lesson, releasing Cornish pixies into the classroom, then proving utterly incapable of controlling them. As pixies wreaked havoc, pulling students' hair and shredding books, Lockhart attempted a spell that did nothing before retreating to his office, calling, I'll just let you round them up, excellent practice. Harry stood calmly amid the chaos, drew his wand, and cast an area freezing charm Bloodfang had taught him. The pixies stopped mid-air, immobilized. Wingardium Leviosa, Hermione added, guiding the frozen pixies back into their cage. Well, that was educational, Harry said dryly as students picked up scattered belongings. We learned our defense professor is completely useless in an actual crisis. Father will hear about this, Draco declared, for once expressing a sentiment many agreed with. After class, Harry pulled Ron aside. Have you talked to your sister since the feast? How does she seem? Ron looked surprised by the question. Ginny? Dunno, normal I guess. Quiet, but she's always been shy. Why? Just curious, Harry replied casually. Thought we might invite her to join our study group sometimes. First year can be overwhelming. That's actually really nice of you, Ron said, looking slightly puzzled by Harry's interest. I'll mention it to her. Harry spent the next few days carefully observing Ginny from a distance while setting up a monitoring network with his friends. Hermione arranged study sessions for first years in the library, where she could observe Ginny directly. Neville made a point of sitting near her in the Gryffindor common room. Even Luna Lovegood, who had struck up a strange friendship with Harry, reported on Ginny's behavior in their shared classes. A pattern emerged, periods of normal, shy first-year behavior interspersed with blank-eyed episodes where Ginny seemed almost in a trance. Most concerning, Luna reported seeing her writing obsessively in a small black book between classes. She doesn't seem like herself when she has that diary, Luna observed in her dreamy voice. The nargles around her changed color completely. Harry had learned not to dismiss Luna's unusual observations. Behind her eccentric exterior lay a remarkably perceptive mind. Does she carry the diary everywhere? he asked. Almost. Except when she goes to the bathroom or sleeps. Then it's under her pillow. This information proved crucial for formulating a retrieval plan. After consulting with Sharpclaw through the communication mirror, Harry decided on a direct but careful approach during the weekend, when students had more free time and routines were less structured. He enlisted Hermione's help for the final phase, catching her after Transfiguration on Friday. "I need you to invite Ginny to that girls' study session you're hosting tomorrow," he explained. "Make sure she brings all her books and materials." Hermione looked concerned. "You're sure the diary is dangerous?" "She's only 11, Harry." "That's precisely why we need to act now," Harry replied grimly. "The longer she has it, the stronger its hold becomes. The goblins believe it's already influencing her behavior." "What exactly is this diary?" Hermione pressed. "You've been vague about it." Harry glanced around to ensure they weren't overheard. "It's a Horcrux, an object containing a fragment of Voldemort's soul. Capable of possession, eventually complete takeover of the host." Hermione gasped. "That's horrible. Why would anyone create such a thing?" "Immortality," Harry explained. "As long as a piece of his soul survives, he can't truly die. And it's inside a diary given to a first year," Hermione whispered, looking sick. "I'll get her to the study session." "What then?" "Leave that to me and the goblins," Harry assured her. The next day, while Ginny attended Hermione's all-girls study session in the library, Harry implemented the second phase of his plan. Under his invisibility cloak, he made his way to Gryffindor Tower, where Fred and George Weasley waited by the portrait hole. "Ready for some mischief, Potter?" Fred, or possibly George, asked the apparently empty air. "Born ready," Harry replied, slipping past them as they gave the password. The twins had agreed to help without asking too many questions after Harry explained their sister might be in danger from a dark artifact. Their trust, earned during the previous year's adventures, proved invaluable now. "Girls' dormitories are up the left staircase," George whispered. "We've disabled the alarm charm for exactly 7 minutes. Any longer and McGonagall gets an automatic alert." "Won't need that long," Harry assured them, already moving. In the first-year girls' dormitory, Harry quickly identified Ginny's bed by the second-hand trunk with her initials. Just as Luna had reported, a small black diary lay under her pillow. Harry didn't touch it directly, instead using dragon-hide gloves and a specially prepared containment box provided by the goblins. As the diary went into the box, Harry felt a wave of malevolent magic pulse outward, as if the object sensed the danger. The containment runes glowed briefly before settling, sealing the Horcrux inside. "Got it," Harry reported to the twins minutes later. "Now for the replacement." The final phase of the plan involved substituting an identical but harmless diary in place of the Horcrux. The goblins had created a perfect duplicate, right down to the faded lettering on the cover reading, "T.M. Riddle." Inside, however, it contained only blank pages charmed to absorb ink before gradually fading, a common enchanted journal available in most magical stationery shops. "Will she notice the difference?" Fred asked as they left Gryffindor Tower. "Probably not immediately," Harry replied. "And by the time she might, we'll have prepared an explanation that doesn't involve Dark Lords or possession." With the Horcrux safely contained, Harry immediately contacted Sharpclaw through his mirror. 2 goblin guards would collect the box that night, transporting it to Gringotts for destruction using methods developed after extracting the soul fragment from Harry's scar. The only remaining question was how to handle the aftermath. Ginny would eventually notice changes in the diary's behavior, primarily that it no longer wrote back to her. After discussing options with Sirius and Sharpclaw, Harry decided on a strategy of gradual intervention. Over the next week, he arranged for Ginny to be included in various social activities with their friend group. Ron, initially puzzled by Harry's interest in his sister, eventually embraced the idea of helping her adjust to Hogwarts. Luna became a particularly good influence, her straightforward acceptance giving Ginny confidence. Harry watched carefully for signs of withdrawal or distress as the diary's influence faded. To his relief, Ginny seemed to improve daily, more color in her cheeks, more animation in her interactions. If she noticed the diary no longer responded, she didn't mention it to anyone. 2 weeks after the diary's removal, Harry received confirmation from Gringotts: the Horcrux had been successfully destroyed. One down, several more to go in their hunt for Voldemort's soul fragments. With this immediate threat neutralized, Harry turned his attention back to the ongoing political chess match with Dumbledore. The prophecy the headmaster continued to withhold remained a critical missing piece. Lockhart is a menace, Draco declared as they left Defense Against the Dark Arts, where the professor had reenacted a scene from his book, Gaddying with Ghouls, using Harry as a reluctant prop. Even Father's connections on the Board of Governors are questioning Dumbledore's judgment in hiring him. It's strategic, Harry replied, brushing off his robes. Lockhart is so incompetent that students will seek education elsewhere, creating study groups across house lines. Blaise looked thoughtful. Promoting inter-house unity while appearing to do nothing of the sort. Devious. Except our education suffers in the process, Hermione pointed out, joining them in the corridor. OWL. S may seem far away, but building proper foundations is essential. Which is why I've arranged for supplementary instruction, Harry said casually. His friends looked at him with surprise. What kind of supplementary instruction? Hermione asked eagerly. You'll see tonight. 8 o'clock, room of requirement. Spread the word to anyone trustworthy. The room of requirement had been Harry's discovery the previous year, a magical space that transformed itself according to the user's needs. Tonight, it had configured itself as a perfect training room with practice dummies, cushioned floors, and walls lined with defensive magic references. By 8 o'clock, a surprisingly large group had gathered, students from all 4 houses, ranging from 1st to 5th year. Ron and Ginny Weasley stood with Neville and the twins. Hermione had brought several Ravenclaws including Luna Lovegood. Blaise, Daphne, and surprisingly, Draco represented Slytherin. Even a contingent of Hufflepuffs led by Susan Bones had arrived. Welcome, Harry greeted them, standing on a small platform at the front of the room. I'm guessing we all share a common problem. Our defense education is currently being handled by someone more interested in his hair than actual defensive magic. Laughter and nods of agreement followed this assessment. So I've arranged for a qualified instructor to supplement our education. Someone with Auror training and ministry certification. The door opened, and Nymphadora Tonks entered, her hair a vibrant purple. Watch her, everyone. Call me Tonks. I'm a third-year Auror trainee and your new unofficial defense instructor. Excited whispers spread through the room. An actual Auror trainee teaching them was beyond what most had expected. Tonks is my cousin, Harry explained. She's agreed to provide weekly training sessions focusing on practical defense. This isn't about house points or grades, it's about actual survival skills. Because let's face it, Tonks added, with Harry around, you're all statistically more likely to face dark wizards than the average Hogwarts student. More laughter, though with an undercurrent of nervous recognition of the truth in her words. Is this allowed? Hermione asked hesitantly. Completely legal, Tonks confirmed. Students may receive supplementary instruction from qualified witches or wizards with parental permission. Harry's godfather arranged it all through proper channels. She grinned mischievously. Dumbledore can't stop it without contradicting his own school bylaws. Now, who's ready to learn how to properly defend themselves? The first session proved incredibly successful. Tonks began with basic shield charms, demonstrating proper wand movement and focusing techniques that Lockhart had never bothered to explain. Even first-years like Ginny managed to produce partial shields by the end of the session. This is brilliant, Ron enthused as they practiced. Actual useful magic instead of Lockhart's dramatic readings. The headmaster won't be pleased, Draco observed, successfully blocking a minor stinging hex from Blaise. Father says he keeps defense instruction deliberately weak to prevent students from learning magic he can't control. Whether that's true or not, Harry replied, helping Luna adjust her wand grip, we're not breaking any rules. If Dumbledore objects, it only raises questions about why he doesn't want students properly trained. By the session's end, everyone had made progress and eagerly signed up for the following week. Tonks pulled Harry aside as students departed. Nice political move, cousin, she said with approval. Creating your own power base right under Dumbledore's nose. Harry shrugged. I'm just filling an educational gap. Sure you are, Tonks replied, not fooled for a second. And the fact that you've got students from all 4 houses looking to you for leadership is just a happy accident. The houses are arbitrary divisions based on personality traits at age 11, Harry said. The real world doesn't care what color your tie is when you're facing dark magic. Tonks ruffled his hair affectionately. You sound like Sirius. Speaking of whom, he wanted me to tell you there's been progress with the Grimmauld Place Horcrux. They found a locket that practically screams dark magic. Goblins are handling containment now. 2 down, Harry murmured. Any leads on the others? Possible location for one at Hogwarts itself, Tonks replied, lowering her voice. Something connected to Ravenclaw. The goblin detection methods are still being refined, but they're picking up traces in the castle. This was concerning news. Another Horcrux at Hogwarts meant another potential vector for Voldemort's influence. Harry would need to accelerate their search before anything could activate it. Keep me posted, he told Tonks. And thanks for doing this. The students need real training, especially with what might be coming. Tonks's expression turned serious. War's coming, isn't it? That's what Sirius and Andromeda believe. Not immediately, but eventually. Harry nodded grimly. Voldemort will return. The Horcruxes guarantee it unless we find them all. And when he does, we'll need fighters from all houses, Tonks finished, understanding his strategy now. Not just Gryffindors playing hero. Exactly. Unity is our only real advantage. News of the defense training group spread quickly, despite participants' efforts at discretion. By the 3rd week, attendance had nearly doubled. Harry was careful to keep himself in a supportive rather than leading role, allowing Tonks to handle instruction while he assisted individual students. This strategy proved wise when Dumbledore finally took notice. The headmaster approached Harry after Transfiguration one afternoon in late October. Mr. Potter, he said pleasantly, might I have a moment of your time? They walked together to a nearby courtyard, empty during class hours. Autumn leaves scattered across the stone pathways as Dumbledore conjured a bench for them to sit on. I understand you've arranged supplementary defense instruction, the headmaster began without preamble. Quite an ambitious undertaking for a second-year student. Not really, headmaster, Harry replied easily. I simply connected students with a qualified instructor. Or trainee Tonks does the actual teaching. Nevertheless, it represents a rather bold statement about the adequacy of Professor Lockhart's instruction. Harry met Dumbledore's eyes. With respect, sir, Lockhart is a fraud. His classroom instruction endangers students rather than preparing them. Strong words, Dumbledore observed, though he didn't actually disagree. Yet the Board of Governors approved his appointment. Politics, Harry said simply. The same reason you can't remove him mid-year without significant embarrassment. We both know he's unqualified. A slight smile touched Dumbledore's lips. You've become quite adept at identifying the political undercurrents, Harry. A skill your father never quite mastered, though your mother, she saw clearly. Then you understand why the defense group needs to continue, Harry pressed. It operates within school regulations and provides essential education. Dumbledore nodded slowly. I have no intention of stopping it, provided certain guidelines are followed. No dangerous spells beyond grade level, proper supervision at all times, and open admission to any student wishing to participate. Already our policy, Harry confirmed, hiding his surprise at Dumbledore's acceptance. He'd expected more resistance. "There is one more thing," Dumbledore added. "I'd like occasional observation rights. Not to interfere, merely to assess." Harry considered this. Having Dumbledore observe meant legitimizing the group even further. "Agreed, with advance notice of your visits. A reasonable compromise." Dumbledore's eyes twinkled slightly. "You negotiate like a goblin, Harry. They've taught you well." The highest compliment in their culture, Harry noted with a small smile. Dumbledore rose from the bench, vanishing it with a casual wave. "Now, regarding the matter of the diary. I understand it has been handled. Contained and destroyed," Harry confirmed. "The student in question is recovering well with no memory of being influenced. We saw no reason to traumatize her with the truth." "A merciful choice," Dumbledore acknowledged. "And the destruction method?" "Horcruxes are notoriously difficult to eliminate. Goblin methods," Harry said simply. "Effective and thorough." Dumbledore appeared to want more details but didn't press. "I find our cooperation on this matter most encouraging, Harry. Perhaps it signals a new chapter in our complex relationship." "Perhaps," Harry allowed. "Which brings me back to the prophecy. As a gesture of this new cooperation, I believe it's time you shared it." The headmaster's expression closed slightly. "You are persistent." "It concerns my life directly," Harry pointed out. "Knowledge I'm denied cannot help me prepare." Dumbledore was silent for a long moment, seemingly weighing options. Finally, he sighed. "Very well. Not here, however. Come to my office this evening after dinner. The full prophecy deserves proper context." Harry nodded, hiding his surprise at this sudden capitulation. After months of resistance, Dumbledore's change of heart seemed suspicious, though Harry wasn't about to refuse the information he'd sought for so long. "Until this evening, then," he agreed. Dumbledore's office reflected the man himself, eclectic, mysterious, and filled with objects whose true purposes remained obscure. Silver instruments whirred and puffed on various tables. Portraits of former headmasters watched with varying degrees of interest as Harry entered. Fawkes the Phoenix trilled a greeting from his perch, and Harry bowed respectfully to the magical creature before taking the offered seat across from Dumbledore. "Tea," the headmaster offered, conjuring a service with a wave of his wand. "Thank you," Harry replied, accepting a cup but not drinking immediately, a caution Bloodfang had instilled. "Always check for potions, even with supposed allies." Dumbledore seemed to note this hesitation with a slight smile. "Constant vigilance, as my friend Alastair would say. A wise approach, though I assure you the tea is merely Earl Grey." Harry performed a subtle wandless detection charm under the table, a trick Andromeda had taught him. Detecting nothing harmful, he took a small sip. "Delicious. Now, about the prophecy." "Direct as always," Dumbledore observed. "Before I share it, I must provide context. Prophecies are dangerous things, Harry. They have power primarily because people believe in them and act upon that belief. Like Voldemort attacking my family based on partial information," Harry surmised. "Precisely. Had he ignored the prophecy entirely, it might never have been activated." Dumbledore rose and moved to a cabinet, withdrawing a stone basin etched with runes. "This is a pensieve, a device for viewing memories. More reliable than verbal recounting." He placed his wand to his temple and drew out a silvery strand, depositing it in the basin. The swirling substance formed the image of a younger Dumbledore sitting across from a wild-haired woman with enormous glasses. Professor Trelawney, Harry recognized from the faculty table. Dumbledore nodded. During her job interview, she delivered her first, and to my knowledge, only genuine, prophecy. The spectral Trelawney suddenly stiffened, her eyes rolling back. When she spoke, her voice was harsh and deep, unlike her usual ethereal tones, the one with the power to vanquish the Dark Lord approaches. Born to those who have thrice defied him, born as the seventh month dies. And the Dark Lord will mark him as his equal, but he will have power the Dark Lord knows not. And either must die at the hand of the other, for neither can live while the other survives. The one with the power to vanquish the Dark Lord will be born as the seventh month dies. The image faded, leaving Harry staring at the pensive in silence. Despite years of preparation and political maneuvering, the finality of those words hit him with unexpected force. Either must die at the hand of the other, he repeated softly. A prophecy of mutual destruction. Or mutual salvation, Dumbledore suggested. Prophecies are notoriously ambiguous. Neither can live while the other survives could be interpreted various ways. Harry processed this information methodically, his goblin training asserting itself. Who else knows the full prophecy? Only myself and now you. Voldemort heard only the first part, that a boy born at the end of July to parents who defied him 3 times would have the power to defeat him. That knowledge led him to target your family. And the Longbottoms, Harry realized. Neville was also born at the end of July to parents who defied Voldemort 3 times. Dumbledore looked impressed. Your insight serves you well. Yes, Neville could have been the subject of the prophecy. But Voldemort chose you, and in doing so, fulfilled the next line, he marked you as his equal. His eyes flicked to Harry's scar. The power he knows not, Harry mused. Any ideas what that might be? I have theories, Dumbledore replied carefully. But I believe discovery of that power must come from within you, not from my speculation. Harry nodded thoughtfully. Thank you for sharing this, Headmaster. It explains much about your actions over the years, both the protective measures and the manipulations. Dumbledore winced slightly at the word manipulations, but inclined his head. I have made mistakes, as I acknowledged last year. My intentions were protective, but my methods, perhaps too controlling. The path to darkness is paved with good intentions, Harry quoted, something Sharpclaw often said. A goblin proverb, I believe, Dumbledore noted. They have wisdom worth heeding, though I admit I've been slow to recognize it. He studied Harry carefully. What will you do with this knowledge, Harry? Continue as I have been, Harry replied honestly. Training, building alliances, hunting Horcruxes. The prophecy confirms what we already suspected, Voldemort and I are linked by fate. You seem remarkably composed for one so young facing such a burden. Harry shrugged slightly. I've lived with his shadow my entire life, Headmaster. Knowing the specific words changes little about my path forward. As he rose to leave, Harry had one final question. The prophecy record at the Ministry, who can access it? Only those named within it, Dumbledore confirmed. Yourself or Voldemort. It's protected by powerful magic in the Department of Mysteries. Good to know, Harry said. One less security concern to worry about. At the door, he paused. I appreciate your trust in sharing this, Professor. Perhaps it marks a turning point in our relationship. I hope so, Harry, Dumbledore replied, looking genuinely tired for a moment. The coming conflict will require unity among those who stand against the darkness. News of the prophecy required immediate sharing with Harry's inner circle. That night, he connected with Sirius, Andromeda, and Sharpclaw through a 3-way mirror communication, a recent Goblin innovation. So it's official, Sirius said grimly after Harry recounted the prophecy. You're destined to face him in the end. We suspected as much already, Andromeda reminded him. This changes our strategy very little. Sharpclaw's expression was calculating. The wording is important. Mark him as his equal suggests the Dark Lord inadvertently elevated you to his magical level through the attack. Power he knows not indicates an advantage beyond conventional magic. Dumbledore wouldn't speculate on what that power might be, Harry said. Typical, Sirius muttered. Likes keeping his cards close. What matters now is accelerating our Horcrux hunt, Andromeda said practically. The prophecy confirms Harry must face Voldemort eventually, but we control when by determining how quickly he can return to full power. Agreed, Sharpclaw nodded. Our teams have destroyed the diary and the locket. We've identified a potential third Horcrux at Hogwarts, something connected to Ravenclaw, possibly her diadem. The detection spells indicate it's hidden somewhere in the castle. The Room of Requirement, Harry realized suddenly. It transforms based on need, including a version that serves as a hiding place for generations of students. If someone needed to hide something connected to Ravenclaw. Worth investigating, Sharpclaw agreed. But cautiously. Take no unnecessary risks. What about Dumbledore's sudden cooperation? Sirius asked. Seems suspicious after months of stonewalling. Harry had been pondering this himself. I think he's genuinely reassessing his approach. The political landscape has shifted dramatically, the Goblin Alliance, your exoneration, the Wisengamot censure. He's adapting. Or setting a more subtle trap, Andromeda warned. Never underestimate Albus Dumbledore. I won't, Harry promised. But working with him against Voldemort makes sense as long as our eyes remain open. After concluding the call, Harry sat by the window in his dormitory, watching the moonlight on the lake. The prophecy weighed on him more than he'd admitted to anyone. Either must die at the hand of the other, left little room for interpretation. Eventually, he would have to kill or be killed. Yet dwelling on this fate accomplished nothing. The goblin philosophy Blood Fong had drilled into him emphasized action over anxiety, preparation over fear. Tomorrow, he would begin searching the Room of Requirement for Ravenclaw's diadem. Another piece of Voldemort destroyed meant another step toward freedom from prophecy's chains. Finding a Horcrux in the Room of Requirement proved more challenging than anticipated. The Room of Hidden Things version contains centuries of accumulated objects, broken furniture, forbidden books, contraband items, and countless other discarded treasures and trash. This could take months, Ron complained as they searched a section filled with towering piles of chairs, tables, and other furniture. Not necessarily, Hermione replied, consulting a book on magical detection. Harry, try focusing the Goblin detection amulet on Ravenclaw's magical signature specifically. The diadem would carry traces of her magic beneath the Horcrux corruption. Harry adjusted the amulet Sharpclaw had provided, a complex instrument combining goblin metallurgy with detection runes. It vibrated faintly, stronger in some directions than others. This way, he said, following the subtle pull toward the back of the enormous room. Luna Lovegood, who had joined their search party, moved with surprising purpose through the maze of objects. Ravenclaw's diadem is said to enhance wisdom, she observed dreamily. Rather ironic that it would be corrupted by the darkest of magics. How does Voldemort even find these significant historical artifacts? Neville wondered as they navigated past a mountain of books. Ravenclaw's diadem was lost for centuries. Tom Riddle was exceptionally charming and persuasive as a student, Harry explained, recalling information from Sirius's investigation into Voldemort's past. He likely tricked someone into revealing its location, probably the Grey Lady, Helena Ravenclaw's ghost. After nearly an hour of searching, the amulet's vibrations intensified near a tarnished tiara sitting atop a chipped bust. Harry immediately recognized the dark aura surrounding it, similar to the diary, but somehow older, more settled into the object. That's it, he confirmed, careful not to touch it directly. Ravenclaw's lost diadem. It's beautiful, Hermione whispered, despite the corrupting darkness clinging to it. Harry removed the specialized containment box from his bag, identical to the one he'd used for the diary. With dragonhide gloves, he carefully placed the diadem inside, sealing it immediately. The box's runes glowed briefly as they contained the malevolent magic. 3 down, Harry said with satisfaction. The goblins will retrieve it tonight through the Hogsmeade passage. Their success was tempered by the knowledge that more Horcruxes remained. Based on magical resonance patterns, the goblins estimated at least 2 more unidentified Horcruxes beyond the 3 they'd already located. The hunt had become something of a race against time. Each Horcrux destroyed weakened Voldemort's hold on the mortal world, but Harry couldn't shake the feeling that events were accelerating towards some inevitable confrontation. That feeling intensified the following week during another Dumbledore-approved defense training session. Tonks was demonstrating shield variations when Harry felt a strange pulse of magic wash through the castle, ancient protections responding to some threat. Moments later, Professor McGonagall's magically amplified voice echoed through the corridors. All students returned to house dormitories immediately. All staff to the second-floor corridor. The defense group exchanged alarmed looks. "That's not a drill," Tonks said, her aura training evident in her suddenly alert posture. "Harry, get everyone back to their dormitories while I check what's happening." "I'm coming with you," Harry countered firmly. "Everyone else, prefects take charge and escort your housemates back safely." After the others reluctantly departed, Harry and Tonks made their way cautiously toward the second floor. As they approached, they heard urgent voices and caught sight of staff members clustered around something on the wall. "Blood writing," Tonks whispered, pulling Harry into an alcove where they could observe undetected. "Standard aura procedure is to document before cleaning." Harry squinted to read the message glistening wetly on the stone: "The Chamber of Secrets has been opened. Enemies of the air, beware." Beneath the message hung Mrs. Norris, Filch's cat, stiff as a board but apparently not dead. "Petrified," Harry murmured, recognizing the symptoms from his magical creature's studies with the goblins. "But by what?" Dumbledore was examining the cat carefully while Filch sobbed nearby. Professor Snape scanned the corridor with narrowed eyes, as if seeking hidden culprits. "This is dark magic," McGonagall was saying. "Albus, could it really be the chamber?" "I fear we cannot rule out the possibility," Dumbledore replied gravely. "The legend has persisted for centuries for a reason." Harry pulled Tonks back toward a side passage. "We need to contact Sharpclaw immediately. The Chamber of Secrets is supposedly Slytherin's hidden room containing a monster that only his heir can control. And Voldemort is Slytherin's heir," Tonks concluded, her hair shifting unconsciously to a worried gray. "But how could he be acting now? The Horcrux diary was destroyed. Either there's another Horcrux we missed, or someone's deliberately copying the chamber legend," Harry reasoned as they retreated to a secluded classroom. "Either way, we need more information." Through the communication mirror, Sharpclaw provided historical context that even Hogwarts professors might not know. The chamber was allegedly opened once before, in 1943, the Goblin explained. A student died, Myrtle Warren, who now haunts the girls' bathroom on the second floor. Tom Riddle, later known as Voldemort, was at Hogwarts then. He blamed Rubeus Hagrid and his pet Acromantula, resulting in Hagrid's expulsion. But it wasn't really Hagrid, Harry guessed. Almost certainly not. Our records indicate the petrification and death matched the effects of a basilisk, a giant serpent whose direct gaze kills and indirect gaze petrifies. As a Parselmouth, Riddle could control such a creature. Harry absorbed this information quickly. So the chamber likely contains a basilisk that's somehow active again. But who's controlling it with the diary destroyed? That remains the critical question, Sharpclaw agreed grimly. Until we determine that, all students are at risk. Particularly Muggleborns, if this follows the pattern of the previous opening. After ending the call, Harry and Tonks debated next steps. "I should inform the ministry," Tonks said. "This is beyond school discipline, it's a potential mass casualty threat." "Dumbledore won't appreciate outside interference," Harry pointed out. "And the ministry might send someone worse than useless, like Fudge himself." "What's your alternative?" Harry considered carefully. "We need to find the chamber entrance first. If we control access to it, we control the threat. Myrtle's bathroom seems the logical starting point, given she was the victim last time. And then what? Face a basilisk ourselves?" Tonks looked skeptical. "That's suicide, Harry, even with your training. Not face it, just confirm its existence and location. Then we bring in specialized help." Harry's expression turned determined. The goblins have basilisk hunters with protective gear and training. Once we know where the chamber is, they can handle the creature. Tonks reluctantly agreed to the preliminary investigation, though she insisted on accompanying Harry for safety. They arranged to meet that night after curfew, with Harry using his invisibility cloak for stealth. The castle corridors felt different after dark, older, more alive with ancient magic. Harry and Tonks moved silently toward the second-floor girls' bathroom, avoiding patrolling prefects and professors with the help of the Marauder's map. "Clear," Harry whispered as they slipped into the bathroom. "Myrtle? Are you here?" A translucent figure of a young girl with glasses rose dramatically from a toilet. "Ooh, a boy in the girls' bathroom. How scandalous." She giggled, floating closer. "What do you want?" "Information about how you died," Harry said directly, knowing from experience that ghosts appreciated straightforwardness about their demise. Myrtle looked surprised, then pleased at the interest. "It was dreadful," she said with relish. "I was hiding from Olive Hornby, who'd been teasing me about my glasses. I heard someone come in, a boy's voice, speaking some funny language. I opened my stall to tell him to go away, and then..." She paused dramatically. "I died. Just like that." Tonks pressed. "Did you see anything? A creature? A person?" "Just big yellow eyes, by that sink there," Myrtle pointed to a circular arrangement of sinks in the center of the bathroom. "And then my body just seized up." Harry approached the sink, examining it carefully. One tap was decorated with a tiny snake barely visible in the dim light. "Parseltongue," he murmured. "The entrance likely responds to Slytherin's language." "Can you speak it?" Tonks asked. Harry shook his head. "Not naturally. But I've studied it academically through Goblin records. Let me try." He concentrated on the snake image, attempting to reproduce the hissing sounds from Goblin training recordings. After several attempts, the sink began to move, revealing a large pipe wide enough for a person to slide down. "Merlin's beard," Tonks whispered. "You actually found it." "Found it, yes. But we're not going down there tonight," Harry said firmly. "Not without proper basilisk protection." He examined the pipe opening carefully, noting runes etched around the entrance. "These appear to be some kind of locking mechanism. If we can determine how they work, we might seal the chamber from this end," Tonks finished. "Brilliant." Harry took several magical photographs of the runes using a special camera the goblins had provided for documentation. Sharpclaw's experts can analyze these. For now, let's close it up. Another attempt at Parseltongue sealed the entrance, returning the bathroom to normal. As they prepared to leave, Harry heard a soft sound in the corridor outside, footsteps approaching. Pulling Tonks under the invisibility cloak, they pressed against the wall just as the bathroom door opened. To their surprise, Professor Snape entered, wand illuminated, eyes scanning the room suspiciously. "I know someone is here," he said softly. "My detection spells are quite specific." Under the cloak, Harry performed a quick goblin cloaking charm to mask their magical signatures. Snape's eyes narrowed as he felt the magic dissipate. "Clever," the potion's master muttered. "Very well. Keep your secrets for now. But be warned, the chamber situation is more dangerous than you realize. Amateur heroics will only result in casualties." He turned to leave, then paused. "If Potter is involved as I suspect, tell him the headmaster is aware of certain goblin activities regarding dark objects in the castle. Cooperation would be more productive than parallel efforts." After Snape departed, Harry and Tonks exchanged meaningful looks. "They know about our Horcrux hunting," Tonks whispered. "Probably detected the magical signature when we contained the diadem. But they're not interfering," Harry noted. "That's something at least." Back in the Slytherin dormitory, Harry immediately contacted Sharpclaw with their findings. The goblin looked grave as Harry described the chamber entrance and Snape's warning. The situation has escalated beyond our initial assessment, Sharpclaw said. If the basilisk is active despite the diary's destruction, another controller must exist, possibly another Horcrux we've yet to identify. Or a living agent of Voldemort, Harry suggested. Someone inside Hogwarts continuing his work. Both possibilities warrant immediate action. I'll dispatch our basilisk containment team to Hogsmeade tomorrow. They can access the chamber through the entrance you've located and neutralize the creature. What about Dumbledore? Snape implied they know about our Horcrux hunting. Sharpclaw considered this briefly. Limited cooperation may be strategic at this juncture. The headmaster has significant knowledge about Voldemort that could assist our efforts. However, maintain operational security regarding our methods and findings. Harry agreed with this assessment. Working with Dumbledore against the immediate basilisk threat made sense, while maintaining independence on the broader Horcrux hunt. The next day brought another development, a school-wide announcement of a dueling club to help students protect themselves. Given recent events, attendance was nearly universal, despite the club being led by Professor Lockhart with Professor Snape assisting. This should be entertaining, Blaise commented as they gathered in the Great Hall that evening. Snape versus Lockhart is hardly a fair match. More like a public execution, Draco agreed with a smirk. The demonstration began with Lockhart's usual theatrical flourishes, followed by Snape effortlessly disarming him with a single spell that sent the defense professor flying backward. After this embarrassment, Lockhart hastily paired students for practice. Harry found himself facing Draco, who looked unusually determined. Just basic disarming, Lockhart instructed nervously. On my count. Before he could finish, chaos erupted across the hall as students cast whatever spells came to mind. Snape observed with thinly veiled amusement as Lockhart failed to maintain control. Scared, Potter? Draco asked as they took formal dueling positions. Not particularly, Harry replied calmly. Friendly match only, right? Draco's response was a quick serpensortia, conjuring a large black snake that landed between them, hissing angrily. The snake turned toward a nearby Hufflepuff, Justin Finch-Fletchley, who had accidentally sent a stinging hex in its direction. As the serpent reared to strike, Harry reacted instinctively. Stop, he commanded, the word emerging as a hiss. The entire hall fell silent. The snake froze, then turned toward Harry, seemingly confused. Return to your caster, Harry continued in Parseltongue, gesturing toward Draco, who had gone pale. Instead of obeying, the snake slithered closer to Harry, as if recognizing a master. Before anything else could happen, Snape stepped forward and vanished the serpent with a flick of his wand. The silence that followed was deafening. Students stared at Harry with expressions ranging from fear to awe to suspicion. Whispers began spreading immediately, Potter's a Parselmouth. That's Slytherin's gift. He must be the heir. Harry maintained his composure, though internally he cursed the public revelation. His academic knowledge of Parseltongue was supposed to remain a secret, useful for finding the chamber but not for fueling speculation about his connection to Slytherin. Well. Lockhart finally broke the awkward silence. That's quite enough excitement for one evening. Class dismissed. As students filed out, still whispering frantically, Harry's friends closed ranks around him. Ron, Hermione, Neville, and Blaise formed a protective circle as they left the Great Hall. That complicates things, Blaise observed dryly once they were alone in an empty classroom. You think? Ron replied. Half the school now believes Harry's the one setting a monster on students. Which is ridiculous, Hermione stated firmly. Harry was with us when Mrs. Norris was petrified. Facts won't matter much against fear, Neville said with surprising insight. People will believe what's easier to accept, that a student they already find unusual is responsible, rather than some ancient monster or returned dark wizard. Harry nodded. You're right. But this might actually work to our advantage. His friends looked at him questioningly. Everyone watching me means they're not watching whoever's really controlling the basilisk, Harry explained. And now I have a public reason to investigate the chamber, to clear my name. Clever, Blaise acknowledged. Though dangerous if the real culprit realizes what you're doing. I'm more concerned about how you can speak Parseltongue at all, Hermione said. It's supposed to be an inherited trait, not something you can learn academically. Harry had wondered the same thing. His goblin instructors had been surprised at how quickly he'd picked up the language from their historical recordings. The most likely explanation connected to his status as a former Horcrux, some residual connection to Voldemort's abilities. The goblins have a theory that magical languages can be learned by those with particular affinity for them, he explained, partially truthful. My connection to Slytherin's line through conquest might explain it. Before they could discuss further, Harry's communication mirror vibrated. Excusing himself, he found Sharpclaw waiting with urgent news. The Basilisk containment team is in position, the goblin reported. They can enter the chamber tonight with your assistance in opening the entrance. Additionally, we've analyzed the runes around the entrance. They're a secondary security system requiring Slytherin blood to fully activate. Which I technically have through conquest, Harry noted. I'll meet the team at midnight by the second-floor bathroom. That night's expedition proceeded with military precision. 6 goblin specialists in protective gear designed specifically for basilisk hunting met Harry and Tonks as planned. Using his newly public Parseltongue abilities, Harry opened the chamber entrance while providing a drop of blood to activate the ancient runes. We go alone from here, the goblin team leader, Ironjaw, instructed. Our gear protects against the basilisk's gaze, but you remain vulnerable. Take this, Harry handed over a communication mirror. Report what you find, especially any signs of who might be controlling the creature. The waiting proved tense. Harry and Tonks maintained position in the bathroom, wands ready in case something unexpected emerged from the pipe. After nearly 2 hours, the mirror activated. Basilisk confirmed, Ironjaw reported, his voice tight with controlled excitement. Enormous specimen, possibly 1,000 years old. Currently in hibernation state in the main chamber. No sign of a controller, but evidence of recent activity. Can you neutralize it? Harry asked. Affirmative. We've administered a specialized potion through its water supply that will maintain permanent hibernation without killing the creature. A remarkable specimen worth preserving if contained safely. Any other findings? Evidence of Horcruxes or Voldemort's presence? Nothing current, Ironjaw replied. However, we found this carved into Slytherin's statue. He showed an image of intricate runes that appeared to be a prophecy written in ancient Parseltongue. Harry couldn't decipher it completely, but recognized references to air, return, and what appeared to be seven-souled darkness. We'll need this fully translated, Harry said. It could be Slytherin's own prophecy about Voldemort and the Horcruxes. With the basilisk neutralized and the chamber secured with goblin wards, the immediate threat to Hogwarts had been contained. However, the mystery of who had initially opened the chamber remained unsolved. The writing on the wall, the petrification of Mrs. Norris, these had happened despite the diary's destruction. The following morning, Harry requested a meeting with Dumbledore to share their findings and, hopefully, compare notes on the remaining Horcruxes. If Snape's message was accurate, the headmaster was already aware of their hunting activities. Dumbledore received him in his office, offering the customary tea and lemon drops. I understand there was quite an expedition last night, he began, eyes twinkling. The castle's oldest protections register such activities, particularly when they involve thousand-year-old secrets. The basilisk has been neutralized, Harry confirmed, seeing no point in denying what Dumbledore clearly already knew. The goblins administered a permanent hibernation potion rather than killing it. It's a remarkable magical creature, despite the danger. A humane solution, Dumbledore acknowledged. And quite characteristic of the goblin approach under King Gornek's progressive leadership. Preservation rather than destruction when possible. Harry studied the headmaster carefully. You don't seem surprised about any of this. The chamber's existence has never been in doubt, merely its location, Dumbledore replied. As for its contents, a basilisk was the most logical inhabitant, given Slytherin's affinity for serpents. What concerns me more is who opened it initially, and why. That's what I wanted to discuss, Harry said. The chamber was opened despite our destruction of Riddle's diary. The Horcrux we believed might have been responsible based on historical patterns. Dumbledore's eyebrows rose slightly. You know about Horcruxes. And you've destroyed Tom's diary. Most impressive. Along with a locket from Grimmauld Place and Ravenclaw's diadem from the Room of Requirement, Harry added, watching for reaction. A genuine smile spread across Dumbledore's face. 3 Horcruxes destroyed already. Harry, this is remarkable progress. I myself have only recently confirmed my suspicions about Tom's method of immortality. The goblins developed detection and containment methods after extracting the fragment from my scar, Harry explained. But our analysis suggests at least 2 more remain unidentified. Dumbledore leaned forward, suddenly intense. Your cooperation on this matter would be invaluable. I have spent decades researching Tom Riddle's life, tracking his movements and likely hiding places. Together, we might locate the remaining Horcruxes far more quickly than working separately. Harry considered this proposal carefully. Dumbledore undoubtedly possessed knowledge they lacked, particularly about Voldemort's early life. Conversely, the goblin detection methods represented a technological advantage Dumbledore couldn't match. A limited partnership might be beneficial, Harry agreed cautiously. Information sharing regarding possible locations and identities of remaining Horcruxes, while maintaining separate operational approaches. A diplomatic compromise worthy of your goblin mentors, Dumbledore said with apparent approval. I accept your terms. The headmaster rose and moved to a cabinet, retrieving a small box. As a gesture of good faith, I offer this, my own research regarding a likely Horcrux. He opened the box to reveal a ring with a cracked black stone. This belonged to the Gaunt family, Tom's maternal relatives. I retrieved it from their abandoned shack and destroyed the Horcrux within, though not without consequence. He briefly showed his right hand, which appeared blackened and withered beneath a concealment charm. The ring carried a powerful curse. Even I underestimated Tom's protections. Harry stared at the ring with interest. That makes 4 destroyed. Based on magical resonance patterns in the soul fragment from my scar, the goblins believe he created 6 deliberate Horcruxes, plus the unintentional one in me. That leaves 2 unaccounted for. I have theories about both, Dumbledore said. One, I believe, is his snake Nagini, a living Horcrux created later in his disembodied state. The other is likely Hufflepuff's cup, which disappeared after Tom visited Hepzibah Smith, who was found dead shortly thereafter. Harry absorbed this information, already thinking about how to integrate it with the goblins' search efforts. We'll focus detection efforts on those items. But that still leaves the question of who opened the chamber this time. Dumbledore's expression grew troubled. Indeed. With the diary destroyed before the incident, someone else must have written that message. Someone within Hogwarts working on Tom's behalf. A sleeper agent, Harry suggested. Or someone under the Imperius curse. Both possibilities concern me greatly, Dumbledore admitted. I've strengthened the castle's detection wards, but identifying the culprit may require more direct observation. Their conversation concluded with an agreement to meet regularly to share Horcrux hunting progress. As Harry prepared to leave, Dumbledore had one final question. Your Parseltongue abilities, quite a revelation at the dueling club. May I ask how long you've possessed this talent? Harry had prepared for this inquiry. The goblins discovered I had the potential during inheritance testing. Their language specialists helped me develop it academically. They believe it transferred to me through rite of conquest when I defeated Voldemort as an infant. A fascinating theory, Dumbledore mused. And quite possibly correct, though I have my own thoughts on the matter. In any case, it proved fortuitous in locating the chamber. Back in the Slytherin common room, Harry found his housemates' attitudes had shifted noticeably since the dueling club incident. Many now regarded him with increased respect, even awe, believing his Parseltongue abilities confirmed his status as a true Slytherin despite his half-blood status. Draco approached him as he entered. "Potter, a word?" They moved to a quiet corner where Draco spoke in a low voice. "Father sent an urgent message." The Dark Lord had contingency plans beyond the diary, sleeper agents activated by certain events. He believes someone at Hogwarts may have been triggered by the diary's destruction rather than its activation. "Your father seems remarkably well informed," Harry observed neutrally. Draco looked uncomfortable. "He's reassessing past allegiances in light of changing circumstances. The information comes as a gesture of good faith." Harry studied him carefully. "Tell your father I appreciate the warning. And that neutrality in the coming conflict would be remembered favorably." The political chess match continued to evolve. Lucius Malfoy, sensing the shifting landscape, appeared to be hedging his bets, providing information to Harry while likely maintaining connections to Voldemort's remaining supporters. Such fair-weather allies were useful but never fully trustworthy. Meanwhile, the hunt for the final Horcruxes accelerated. Dumbledore shared memories of Tom Riddle's life, providing context for his choices of significant items. The Goblins refined their detection methods, focusing on the magical signatures of Hufflepuff's cup and living tissue containing soul fragments. In late April, their efforts yielded results. Goblin detection teams identified unusual magical activity at Gringotts itself, specifically in the Lestrange Vault. Working through complex legal channels, they conducted a security inspection that revealed Hufflepuff's cup hidden among the Lestrange treasures. 5 down, Sharpclaw reported triumphantly via mirror. "Only the snake remains, assuming our count is accurate." But the snake, Nagini, proved elusive. Dumbledore's intelligence network could confirm her existence but not her location. Without Voldemort fully corporeal, his familiar stayed hidden, protected by loyal Death Eaters. As the school year drew to a close, Harry met with Dumbledore for their final Horcrux strategy session. The headmaster seemed both impressed and slightly disconcerted by their rapid progress. "We stand at a crossroads, Harry," he said thoughtfully. "With 5 Horcruxes destroyed and only Nagini remaining, Voldemort is more vulnerable than he has been since before your birth. Yet this vulnerability makes him more dangerous, desperate for restoration." "You think he'll accelerate his plans," Harry surmised. "I fear so. My sources report increased Death Eater activity, former supporters being contacted, resources gathered. Tom is preparing for something significant." Harry nodded grimly. The Goblins have detected similar patterns through their financial monitoring. Large withdrawals from suspected Death Eater vaults, property transfers to secure locations. "We must remain vigilant," Dumbledore advised. "Your Goblin Guards should continue next year, and perhaps expand their presence. The political landscape has shifted enough to justify it." Indeed, the year's events had dramatically altered Hogwarts dynamics. The defense training group had grown to include nearly a quarter of the student body, with Tonks's practical instruction earning respect across all houses. Harry's public Parseltongue abilities, while initially controversial, had ultimately enhanced his reputation as a powerful and unusual wizard. Most importantly, the alliance between Dumbledore's faction and Harry's Goblin-supported group had strengthened, focusing on the common enemy while maintaining independence on matters of strategy and approach. As the Hogwarts Express carried students home for summer, Harry sat with friends from all 4 houses, discussing plans for continued training and communication during the break. "My father's arranged for us to attend the Quidditch World Cup in August," Ron told the group excitedly. "Ireland versus Bulgaria. He got tickets through work. Harry, you should come with us." "Sounds brilliant," Harry agreed. "Though I'll need to bring security." "Naturally," Hermione said dryly. Heaven forbid Harry Potter attend a sporting event without a Goblin honor guard. Everyone laughed, the tension of the year's events temporarily forgotten. Yet beneath the camaraderie ran an undercurrent of determination. Each understood that the coming conflict would likely define their generation. At King's Cross, Sirius waited on the platform alongside Andromeda and Ted. Nearby stood 4 goblin guards in formal armor, drawing curious stares from other parents. "Good year?" Sirius asked, embracing Harry warmly. "Productive," Harry replied. 5 Horcruxes down, 1 to go. Basilisk contained. Chamber secured. Political alliances strengthened. "Just another year at Hogwarts," Sirius quipped. "Nothing special." As they headed toward the platform exit, Harry noticed Dumbledore watching from a distance. The headmaster inclined his head slightly in acknowledgement, respect between allies, if not quite friends. The prophecy still loomed, its final confrontation inevitable. But Harry Potter, heir of 8 houses, goblin ally, and leader of a growing cross-house coalition, no longer faced it alone or unprepared. The halls of power, both at Hogwarts and beyond, had begun to recognize a new force in the eternal struggle between light and darkness. The game continued, its stakes higher than ever. But for the first time, Harry felt they might actually win. The end. Thank you for watching this video. Please be sure to subscribe to our channel and like this video.